the DAWbench Radio Show, the official podcast of DAWbench.com.
Welcome to the DAWbench Radio Show. I am your host, Vin Curigliano of AAVIM Technology in Melbourne, Australia. And I'm joined again by Pete Brown of Microsoft in Maryland in the United States. Geez, Pete, I almost said Maryland.
I heard you hesitate for a second.
How you doing, man?
I'm good now that I'm back home. It's cold here though. Yeah. It's absolutely freaking freezing cold here. It's just not even fit for man nor beast.
Yes, I've heard about the once in a century snowstorms that you guys have. Well, at least in the eastern part of the country, the west just seems to be. Man, I watched the Super Bowl yesterday. It looked like a sunny day in San Fran. So you know.
Yeah, but we don't give a shit about the West Coast. No. What's going on over here is important.
So you've been well.
Yeah, I've been doing well. Just been working on MIDI stuff here. You know, we launched that. We'll talk about that in a bit, but fixing bugs and doing all the things that are involved in a launch.
Yeah, and the ASIO, in-house ASIO wouldn't be far away either. Yeah, that'd be good.
And just for the hell of it, since I have a podium here, I'm going to say happy. Well, I guess by the time this goes up, because you take forever to edit these things because you're such a perfectionist, it'll be late. But so I'll say happy belated 20th birthday to my son, Ben.
Oh, okay. I'll try not to make it a marathon this time. There you go. Okay, awesome. Now, last but not least, we're also joined by Chris Mann of Link Audio, also in Melbourne. Chris, how you doing, man?
I'm very well, guys. How are you going?
Yeah, I'm all right. So how are things at your end of the spectrum?
Oh, it's been a busy 12 months. Time flies. I don't know where the time goes.
Well, it's been about 6 months. Remember, we were trying to do it. We were trying to do it every quarter, but that plan went out the window, and it's been about 6 months.
6 months, but felt like 18 months, I guess, Chris, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We roll into Christmas and Black Friday and then holidays here. And speaking of weather, we've had some scorches. We've had a few days of the hottest place on the planet.
Yeah.
Oh, piss off.
Yeah,
true. Yeah. Uncomfortable.
Yeah, no, I've been telling you about it, Peter. We've been in the mid-40s. It's like,
I'll trade you.
Fucking go away. I know you wouldn't.
No, probably not.
We need to meet somewhere in the middle. Is it the Bahamas or something?
Yeah, we got to find some kind of nice area where it sits around mid-25, and it's perpetually there, and then I'll be a very, very happy man.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, it's been definitely an interesting 3 months at my end, and my AAVIM Technology company turns 25 this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But, you know, I'm currently in a very weird state. I'm literally almost dead in the water at the moment due to factors outside of my control in the industry. And I don't really want to go down there, Pete. I think, you know, you guys know what I'm kind of alluding to. But if I go down now, I've got a feeling the rant alarm might come in early. So I'm going to stay away from that one. So, look, I think let's start off. You guys were both at NAMM, and you guys finally met face-to-face for the first time. Sent me a lovely photo. Yeah. Thank you, guys. You know what you can do with those fingers.
Whoops.
You know, I was so embarrassed because I had met a million random people that day already because NAMM.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because you're such a fucking celebrity, Pete. I hear you're a bit of a celebrity.
No, we were just along the wall on the main thing, so everybody and their mother came by and saw us. But Chris, I forget
Michael.
who the person was
Michael.
that you were with.
Yeah,
Michael came by, and they said that they're from a certain company and stuff. I'm like, oh, yeah, nice. And it wasn't clicking in my head that when Chris said, and I'm Chris, that this is Chris from this show. And so I'm just talking to him like he's some rando. And then about 5 minutes into it, I was like, oh, that Chris. And yeah.
It took you 5 minutes to recognize his voice. Come on. Really?
It was a busy show.
It just was out of context.
Yeah.
I probably should have said from the podcast. That didn't help.
Yeah.
I'll remember that next time.
Well, if you said Chris from Link Audio, you would have thought he would have been a bit of a click.
Yeah, but that just didn't. I was being extra stupid, so I didn't catch that.
Nah, it's probably the signal to noise there over there would have been insane as well.
It was a loud, loud show.
Yeah. Any marching bands?
No. I was I had Gary with me from the audio team for the first time, and I was explaining how they used to have the marching band go through and how that made certain presenters absolutely lose their shit one year. And she was just like, "What?" But no, we couldn't hear a damn thing in there. It's so loud.
Yeah. Well, look, I was looking at the photos. Look, I haven't been there in decades, but it looked a little bit more open and a bit more sparse than from what I remember. I used to remember it used to be a lot more packed. Or is that just maybe the photos that I was looking at what gave me that impression? Was it pretty chockers, or what was the attendance like, do you think?
It was a bit hard to know because I heard on the grapevine that they let the public in on day 2 and 3. So it was busy on those first 2 days. Like, it was chock-a-block.
Right.
And they don't normally leave the public in until the last day. So I don't know why they did that, but it certainly felt very busy. And it also then got very loud in that main hall. I mean, we were in a few meetings and in a couple of cases just had to go outside to finish the meeting because we couldn't hear anything.
Yeah. Right.
It was crazy.
Yeah. Okay.
I would say, Vin, there weren't as many companies there. Like, NAMM always does things to try to make it look like it's still packed and busy. You know, you have to look for, this section's curtained off in the back, or, there's suddenly an open meeting area with tables over in this area, stuff like that. But those signs were there. There were a lot of companies that were there. There are a lot fewer synth and pro audio companies there than there have been in pre-COVID times. So I think a lot of those companies just kind of realized, hey, we don't need the NAMM show anymore, and stop showing up.
Or maybe they're what's that huge one in Europe that you went to last year?
Like Super Booth.
Booth. Maybe they just kind of, especially European companies, are probably maybe.
They are. And I did hear because there were a bunch of press folks that didn't make it here this year as well. Like Sonic State didn't make it over, which is the first in, 20-something years.
Yeah.
And the main issue is, and we're not going to get political on this podcast, but they didn't know if they came in here, if their equipment would be allowed in the country and if they'd be able to get back home, essentially.
Oh, okay. Oh.
So there was a lot of that kind of fear.
Right. Okay. Well, that's unfortunate.
Plus, NAMM's expensive.
Yeah, it always is, you know. So anything to kind of report from there, guys? You know, whoever wants to go first?
Oh, I'm happy to go first.
Yeah.
I had a busy NAMM. We had a lot of meetings and a lot of walking around and a lot of dinners, etc. But I got to walk around on the last day. And for the first time, actually, I found a few things that I really liked. So I made a little bit of a list. There were some interesting things and some different things, which I kind of always like looking for. So
cool.
Bayer Dynamic had a very interesting new plugin.
Yes.
For their DT Pro headphones,
yes,
which
I'm using
was
that.
a calibration. Yeah,
yes.
So they had a big booth with a lot of DJs using that, and I had a little bit of a play with that, and it's an interesting little VST plugin that calibrates your headphones. I thought, that's kind of cool.
Yep, and it's free.
It is free. That's also cool. Yep. Casio had a cute little Game Boy type little sampler, which I played for quite some time. I think they ended up kicking me off the booth at one point. But it was an SCX little kind of, it almost looks like a Game Boy, and it's just a very cool little toy.
Casio,
correct.
Wow. Okay, they're
64 gig. Yeah, they are. It's old SK1 sounds from the 80s with a built-in mic, and you kind of sample stuff and built-in sequencer. And I liked it. I just thought it was really a fun toy. Not usually the thing that I'm doing, but I had a lot of fun on that. It's not out yet. It's not shipping, but I'm looking out for that one. It looks pretty cool.
Yep.
The one that I really enjoyed was Eventide have a new plugin called the Temperance, and it's a reverb. I know we don't need more reverbs and more plugins, but this thing was really different. It sort of allowed you to, it sort of worked on chromatic scale to determine what notes kind of blossom and what notes don't, and you could do things like shape the tail and, you know, set it to the key of your track. And it was really cool. Again, I sat on the stand for that one for quite some time until I got the old shoulder tap to move on. But it's actually, I like that one so much as soon as I got home, I've actually bought myself a version of the Pro.
Right.
And sort of really liked how you can tweak stuff in a really different way that I haven't seen before. So that was a bit of a highlight. That was probably my number one, I think. There were some other cool things. There was a new Nord that had a Kawaii keyboard action, which was really nice to play.
Weighted?
Yeah, it was weighted. It was
nice.
their I can't remember, Electro 7 something or something.
Yep,
but
yep.
it was really nice. I kind of liked that. There was some new stuff from the suppliers that we normally deal with. There's a new Apogee audio interface, which is cool. A lot of new Persona stuff, which we could talk about later.
Yep.
I finally had a go at the Roland drum machine, that new TR-1000. That's a monster. I've got to tell you, that's a really fun machine too. That's currently shipping as well.
So what are the sounds of the TR-1000? Is it a mixture of everything, is it?
Yeah, gathered everything. They had this great wall where they had some 606s, the 808s, 727s, 9, a bit of a nostalgic walk down to some of the old drum machines, which is a really cool display.
Yep.
So you like that? I've actually been curious about that drum machine. Is it as big as it looks on screen?
Yes, and it sounds great. And the other thing that's massive is the Akai, the new MPC.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun too, but not my thing. I find drums really difficult to program, but those things are kind of fun to play on. And they had a lot of buzz around the stand too, those two products.
Ah, cool.
Yeah, that was mine now. I sort of had a bit of fun doing that on the last day. It was good.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff. Lots and lots of, I don't think I've seen as many products, or maybe I just haven't paid attention. Everyone had new interfaces. There was just lots of stuff everywhere. Korg had 2 new interfaces, audio interfaces, which is interesting.
Yeah, is that a first for them? I haven't really paid much attention with Korg, as far as interfaces, or Korg in general. But so there you go. Well, it's good. It's good. Well, it sounds like at least, even though there wasn't a huge turnout of some of the other synth and the European companies, it did sound like at least there was some good releases there. I know I kind of picked up on some of the ones that you mentioned, or probably most of them, but there was some that I'd actually wasn't aware of the Roland drum machine. So there you go.
I like how they announce things a little bit before NAMM, because for me, it makes me then go and find them. Yeah. And I think if you don't see that and it gets announced on the day, it gets a little bit lost, especially when you're a little bit time poor.
Yeah, of course.
For us, NAMM is mostly about meetings and other things. It's not necessarily about walking around finding these things. So, I had a few things and I found them all, which was great, including Pete. That was on my list.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, and you're right. With some of those product announcements, I was just following on, being the armchair expert back here in Melbourne, and some of those announcements, they were kind of like mid-show. It's like, oh, okay. Why wouldn't you at least announce them day one, or like when you're setting up, prepping, So I hear you. At least you can make a bit of a short list and thing off. But if someone makes an announcement second day in, you're not going to, you probably end up missing it.
Right. So much news that hits you all at once. You can't really keep up with it.
Yeah, no. Oh, there you go. Well, Pete, how did you go, mate?
So kind of like Chris, I spent most of my time in meetings, or we had a booth to work for the first time. So I was standing there being a very approximate version of a booth babe, I guess. But
with your collection of funky shirts, I did notice that, Pete. You do.
I know.
You have a collection of very colorful shirts.
Yeah, one of the guys from the MIDI Association was like, "Oh, I always like your shirts," and he just thought that's how I always dress. But no, that's just for the show. I'm usually wearing some freaking gray T-shirt all the time. Otherwise, so.
Yeah.
I did see 3 things that I thought were interesting. So I finally got hands on with the UDO Domino synth, which is something I've been wanting to really try in person to see if I liked it, and unfortunately, I did like it.
So have you purchased it?
I have not purchased it yet.
Right.
I just don't have room, but it's like I keep hovering over the button on it.
Yeah.
It really sounded fantastic. I was quite happy with that. And it's smaller than a lot of other synths, so maybe I can find a way to make it work.
Yeah.
The other one is everybody's been going nuts over the Levia synth.
That one, yeah.
Yeah. And I tried it, but I don't know, Vin. Me and FM sounds just have never gotten along very well. I don't know. I think I was traumatized by ePiano 2 or whatever in the 80s with
Oh, yeah, I'm still traumatized by the doorbell sounds on the DX7, mate.
Yeah.
Trust me.
the Taco Bell ring sounds, stuff like that. So I tried it for a bit, but I really just scrolled presets on it and just nothing was speaking to me, but I was sort of not really into it to begin with. So I don't know. It might be really good, but it's probably not for me.
Yeah, that was one that I think I said, I sent you a link going, what is this? Because I'd missed, what was the previous one that those guys had done?
Yeah, they do the Hydrasynth.
That's the one. Like and again, I was just, my only reference is listening to the, the walkthroughs and stuff. I thought it was just me. There was nothing that was kind of grabbing me. And I just, and I thought, so that's interesting that you've just said, okay, you've been in front of it and there wasn't anything that was grabbing. And look, it might be just that we're more leaning towards a different type of sound for the synths. It could be, it is most likely awesome for a large number of people, but it wasn't doing anything for me, Pete, to tell you the truth. So.
Yeah. I mean, there was always crowded over there. People were always playing it. So, and they seemed happy when they were doing so. So I think that's exactly it. It's just not the sound I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I saw is Waldorf had, as Waldorf and Fatard, Studio Logic and stuff, they always have that section over in the middle of the floor. Mm-hmm. They were actively advertising MIDI 2.0 capabilities of all their controllers and stuff now. So I was pretty happy to see that.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. Which leads us into, no, actually, have you finished with your kind of NAMM?
Yeah, those are the three things.
Okay.
I really didn't get a whole lot of floor walking time this year. It was mostly meetings and running a booth.
Right. So that's probably a good thing because, from what I hear, Pete, that, you're such a celebrity. If you walk down the aisle that you get mobbed.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Well, could have been expensive.
My wife, I think if she heard that upstairs, she would have rolled her eyes so hard she would have gone.
Well, mate, I didn't come up with that. That was actually that opinion was actually forwarded by someone that you're on a podcast with, and when I heard it, I literally spat my tea out. But hey.
And you wonder why Chris and I had that particular gesture in the photo that we sent you.
What, the wave?
Yes, that's it.
The wave, the one finger wave. So look, let's move, because you've just mentioned MIDI 2, which is a perfect segue into me asking you, can you just give us some overview on your work there as well, and then we can just you can give us some catch up on the native ASIO driver for Windows, which would be nice.
Sure.
Yeah, go.
So just super quickly, the NAMM show was kind of our celebration of releasing the new MIDI stack in Windows. It started going out into retail Windows 11 the week right after the NAMM show, and it's still doing its full rollout and will for the next, I think, 2 more weeks or so.
So that's 25H2, right?
It goes out to 24H2 and 25H2.
Okay, good. Yeah, okay, cool.
So, because they're both supported. So those are the ones that we can roll out to.
Yeah, perfect.
And it'll go out to 26 whatever and things
26H1 or whatever. Yeah.
But right now it's in those.
Right.
And so we did that, did a little bit of a session at the MIDI Association booth that's on YouTube now, just explaining kind of what's going out there. And there'll be a blog post. It'll be the middle of February, so next week, based on the time we're recording this. But that just explains everything that's going out there. And it's been busy as hell because there are a couple of bugs. I broke something with Loop MIDI that I'm trying to fix that, people use that. So having a break in that is a bad thing. So actively fixing that and a couple other things. And then there's and this sounds like a humble brag, but maybe it is. I don't know. But we actually found an issue in a DJ application where it was failing because the new MIDI stack is so much faster than the old one that they had a timing issue in the app with when they were creating these buffers and stuff like that.
Right.
We caused some of their stuff to break, but we're working on that with them to fix it.
Okay.
But otherwise, it's been going pretty well. Like having everything multi-client now is the big sell. So
yeah, awesome. And also, just we quickly mentioned that the MIDI organization had you inducted some lifetime achievement awards with some pretty cool names as well.
we did.
Which most actually showed up to accept.
Yeah.
One major name didn't. He sent someone else to pick it up. Yeah.
There were a couple of those that sent other people to pick them up, either just because they're older and it's harder. But yeah, like Charlie Steinberg, I know couldn't make it in person. But like I know Gerhard Lengling made it, but I don't think. Oh shoot, I'm forgetting his name.
Well, the guy from Opcode, he made it as well. I can't remember his name.
He made it.
Yeah.
You can't miss him with that beard.
Yeah.
The guy from Passport originally, I don't think he made it.
Right.
But he was one. The Media Association's executive board all voted on all these folks, and the Passport guy was one of mine just because the fond memories of running that stuff on a Commodore 128 as my first MIDI setup. And plus, a lot of people don't realize, but Windows 3.1 and Windows 95, I think, shipped with a MIDI file called passport.mid, which oddly has its own fandom now if you look it up on YouTube, but that was created by those folks as well.
Yeah, I probably know it, but I can't remember it. Chris, can you remember that, whatever that thing sounded like?
No, not really.
No, there you go. See,
Sorry.
We're showing our age, mate. Well, that's good. That's good. So the native ASIO driver. You don't have to give us an exact timeline, but that should be getting closer to the pin, shouldn't it, Pete?
It's still being worked on, doing a bunch of compatibility stuff. Just to be transparent, one thing that Yamaha has learned in all this is just all of the other non-musician types of audio devices that you need to support in a driver like this, like DisplayPort docks and all sorts of other random things. So that's taken a little bit longer, but they've been on top of that. Mostly the reason it's not in the Canary builds yet is just the audio team and I have been super busy just trying to make sure MIDI goes out and is stable, and then we can start focusing more on getting the ASIO stuff into Windows.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. Awesome. So is there anything else, Pete, you want to kind of discuss in those areas, or I can shuffle along?
So I think the one other thing about the NAMM show that was really fun for me is while I was away at the show, of course, it's become a bit of a meme with my family. Every time I go to the NAMM show, some disaster happens at home. Yeah. There was an earthquake one year, massive storms and a power outage one year. This year, they got a foot of snow, which then had 4 inches of solid ice on top of it.
Yeah.
Which turned out to be an absolute disaster. Like the snowblowers couldn't make it through it. You couldn't shovel through it with a snow shovel. People were out in their driveways literally with pickaxes and heavy duty garden shovels and stuff trying to get through it. And even the Washington, D.C. airport, which, as you can imagine, is a pretty central airport, they didn't have their runway open for like another day. And then even then they only had one runway open. So I kept getting shuffled up and down the West Coast. Like I got flown from Los Angeles to Seattle, and then the flight from Seattle got canceled. And then they flew me back down to San Diego.
That's right.
And then that flight got delayed like 6 hours. But then finally I made it home at like 2 a.m, like 3 days later after the NAMM show. Yeah,
that's right. It was towards the end of the week. I said, I still haven't heard from Pete. I don't know whether you've made it home or not. That was crazy.
I say, and of course, in all that shuffling, my luggage didn't make it to the last stop. So thank God I always carry spare underwear and stuff. That's the old, if you're ever in an accident, make sure you got clean underwear in the glove compartment thing. So I always carry a change of clothes in my backpack in case of stuff like that. But I was getting pretty nervous that was going to be the only change of clothes I had. So,
but apart from the shuffling on the West Coast, so you went LA, Seattle, because I remember I was following along with you, right? So you went LA, Seattle, and then you said, I'm going to San Diego. And why the fuck are you going to San Diego? Aren't you heading in the wrong direction? And you've gone, well, that's the only way I can get a connecting flight. What was the next stop from San Diego?
From San Diego, that one did go home. Yeah, because
It did go home, yeah.
Seattle. Did I stay in San Diego? I don't remember now. I know I stayed an extra day in LA to begin with, and then I stayed overnight in a hotel in Seattle. Yeah. And I don't remember I think maybe I stayed I don't remember if I stayed in San Diego. No, that was down from Seattle, 6 hours of delay in San Diego, and then it got home from there.
You got home from there, yeah. Crazy.
And when I got home, the roads were, they couldn't use plows because of the way the ice was. They were using construction equipment out on the highways to try to open single lanes, even 3 days later.
That's crazy. Yeah, so that's a once in 100-year kind of storm.
Yeah, better be.
Yeah. Yeah, and while you were navigating that, me and Chris were navigating 40 plus degree days.
I know, the freaking ice. So that was, a week and a half ago? The ice is still on the ground here. My backyard, nobody is still solid ice with no footprints because you don't sink through it.
You don't sink through. But I mean, you sent me photos of one of the cars, and the snow was up about 3/4 of the way up the wheel.
Yeah.
And it was solid ice. And I'm thinking, well, how are you going to get the car out? And you just said, you don't.
No, that's parked there till the spring.
You don't. Yeah, crazy. All right, I think let's just move on, and I'll just cover some of the DAWbench development stuff because have released DAWbench Suite 2026. So that's been a 3-year project for me, and it's been quite involved. And I had a checklist, and the run sheet for me with the DAWbench 2026. One, we needed to move everything to VST3, and everyone's going, duh. And I'm thinking, well, we were running those legacy plugins for a long time, and I needed some consistency in the testing and stuff. So I had the discussion with Pete from Scan, who's one of my primary testers, and I've said, look, we do need to move everything to VST3. And we got off all of the old legacy plugins. So now the DSP sessions, the saturation tests, the standard DSP and bus tests, they're now running some plugins from Analog Obsession. Main reason is that I went through dozens of plugins to test. One, the kind of individual load. I needed stability, especially when we start loading them up incrementally. And look, I've got no association with Analog Obsession. I just found them to be these really nicely coded analog emulation plugins that actually did the job for me. So that's the main reason I use them. I introduced the mix session, which is probably been the main catalyst of a lot of the reporting for the last, believe it or not, Pete, 2 years. All right, so that whole adventure with the mix that I started off with Marcus in the UK to explore all of that thread management stuff, that started in January 2024. So it's been 2 years.
Oh, wow.
That's kind of crazy. And it's gone through 9 or 10 revisions and all the rest of it. So there's a stack of reports for that. The main focus also as well with the list of DSP sessions was that I wanted to expand the number of DAWs that the sessions are running in so we can get these test environments to a wider audience. So now on 5 different DAWs. So we'll go alphabetically. So we've got Bitwig, Cubase, Reaper, Sonar, Studio One, aka now Studio Pro, right? So that's the 5 DAWs for the DSP test. The VI test is still Reaper only, and there's reasons for that which I won't go into, except that porting the sessions across and actually running the sessions was proving more difficult. I have got some betas of some of the other DAWs, and I think for the R2 release of 2026, I will most likely introduce some more VI stuff. But those VI tests, I did some major reworking with those as well. The orchestral session, the music that was written for that was written by a good friend of mine, early 2000s. I didn't really pay a lot of attention. He's an orchestral composer. I didn't pay a lot of attention in regards to how tight everything was. It kind of worked as a benchmark, but I decided to get OCD and just really dive in and dial in every part, how every part was actually sitting with everything else. And so there's been some editing that it's been done there as far as the actual music composition. As far as the instruments, this has been the major change. It's moved off the full version of Contact and is now on Contact Player.
Right.
And which kind of will lead us into some further discussion later. But when you're using the Contact Player, the free version, there is a limited number of free libraries that you can actually use. I mean, the library guys, the people that are offering those free libraries to work in Player, there is a licensing fee that kind of stops a lot of these developers from actually introducing, especially the free libraries. But I found something really nice in the Sonoscore. So there's a full Sonoscore, driving all the orchestral parts. There's some kind of band instrument parts in that session as well. They're actually driven by Native Instruments Complete, whatever the free version is. I can't remember. It's off the top of my head now. Complete Start or something like that. There's like a 6 gigabyte library. So I managed to pool all that together, done a stack of remixing. The drums have moved off a loop and is now being driven by Steve Slate Drums 5, the free version of Steve. So anyone who wants to run this session now, they don't need a full version of Contact. All the libraries are freely available, so anyone can actually run this session. So where before it was a little bit harder.
Did you say you have a Steve Slate plugin in there and you also have marching band sounds? Is that what I heard?
Yes. I was trying to get past that without you bringing that up. Yes, there is a Steve Slate product in my DAWbench Suite. So that was the orchestral one. And one of the other, the most significant change, I think, for the DAWbench VI is that for years, the community have been asking me to do a virtual instrument one away from the samplers. And you know, Pete, I've been talking about this for years, right? And I've been waiting on some friends to write me just, 8 to 16 bars of electronic music track, because I'm not using electronic music. I mean, I listen to some stuff and I enjoy, especially, psytrance type of stuff like Infected Mushroom or something like that, and that kind of genre. But there was always the promise, no worries, Vin, we'll knock this out for you,
Yep.
Mate, after 2 fucking years or more, I've gone, you know what, over that Christmas break, I just absorbed myself with a whole stack of psytrance, watched the whole stack of tutorials, studied some MIDI file stuff, especially with the rhythmic, the bass lines and that type. And I knocked it up myself. And, you've heard it, Pete.
Yeah. Infected Vin.
What did you call it? Something like Psytrance Italo prog, and I'm gone, what? I don't know. It's just there's a 4 and a floor. It works the subs very, very hard. There's a stack of arpeggiated stuff in there. It's too crowded. Let's be honest, right? It's too crowded because I needed to jam as many tracks as possible. It does work, but friends of mine have just said, and it only goes for 8 bars, right? It loops around 8 bars. And a few friends of mine have said, what are you talking about? You got a whole track there. I'm going, what the fuck are you talking about? It's 8 bars. They said, no, Vin. What? You've got that many elements in that 8 bars that you could sit there and build a 10-minute sidetrack if you wanted to. So am I going to? No. But so we do have a synth-based virtual instrument session now, and I'm very happy that the majority of that session is actually driven by the Surge synth team. All right. So the initial premise was that, and we discussed this on the last podcast with Paul as well, was that I was going to do a 1 synth challenge. And you know what? I knocked it off. I had that whole session being driven by Surge XT, but I did run into some problems when I was scaling it. For what it didn't like having a really large number of instances. So I had to kind of shuffle some stuff around. That gave me the opportunity to dive into another synth the team have got, which is called OBXF, which is based off that Disco DSP OBXD. I don't know if you know that one. It's basically it's an OBX synth, but they've got a an open source version called OBXF that's based off the original code. The Surge team have hopped onto that. It's close to a V1, but the beta is solid enough for me to actually have used that to drive some sounds in the session. And then I've got Vital as well. So there's 3 synths in there, and the drums are handled by 99 Sounds drum machine or something. It's like an 808 or 909. I think it's 808 drum. It's great. I actually enjoyed doing that. Maybe I got a little bit too obsessive because the wife is just looking at me and hearing what I'm doing, going, "What the fuck you doing?" Because I was up sometimes till 1 a.m, 1, 2 a.m, just listening.
Blasting Italo prog electronica.
Yeah, even one of my sons has gone, "Are you all right?" I've gone, "Yeah." He goes, What are you writing that shit for?" I've gone, "Have a listen to it." I put it on.
Shut up! It's my midlife crisis.
Yeah,
Leave me alone.
I put it on the headphones, and I've gone, "What do you think?" He goes, "It's actually not bad." I went, "Oh, there you go."
Yeah.
So that's DAWbench VI.
People don't realize how much work you put into that. Not to blow smoke up your ass or anything, but several years of getting this all working, and even just getting tracks that work across all these different DAWs in a meaningful way that you can measure. I mean, that's quite an accomplishment. So, props for getting this stuff out.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it is an amazing, it is an enormous amount of work. And look, it's across 5 DAWs. And apart from the 5 DAWs that I've officially released, there's another 3, right? And I don't mind naming them. Pro Tools, Traction Waveform. Both of those have got quite a few sessions already written, but they were proven difficult to actually deliver in the context of the session, and it was for different reasons. Pro Tools, for some reason, was losing its mind on the sine waves because it was just seeing, because all the sine waves are the same length, it was somehow grouping them together in a parent-child type of thing. I'm going, "What are you talking about? They're actually separate wave files." It was completely screwing everything. It's something to do with the metadata. Now, I think I may have discussed this with you, Pete, because remember you wrote me that little script to actually help me duplicate the files, because remember I was creating some new 44, 48, 96, and then you wrote me a script. And it's something to do with that. Somehow that script has written some metadata that literally every other DAW on the market has no problem with. Pro Tools loses its mind. So I couldn't resolve it, and I wasn't going to go compromising the other DAWs for it because all the work was done. There is a Pro Tools version. It's a separate one, and this is thanks to my friend Mikko in Finland that just lost his mind trying to work out what the fuck was going on with the files. So there is a dedicated one which is in-house, and I don't mind sharing that if any of the Pro Tools users want to kind of have a bit of a play. Traction Waveform, it was fine with all the WAV files, but it was just the way that the sessions was being delivered, and there was something to do with because when you unzip the files, the directory for where the audio files are, with every other DAW, I can just redirect and it just reconnects them all. It had massive problems for some reason. I can't remember the exact technical detail, but I've got Traction Waveform as an in-house one as well, and the last one, which I've only just started working on, and I kind of flooded you with some of the problems I was running into, and you said, "Vin, I'm not reading all of that mess." And that was
I'm just there to support you, Vin.
Yeah, thanks, mate. That was Ableton. So I have started on some Ableton R&D for all of the people listening in that are asking about Ableton. There are some logistical problems with actually running that, to tell you the truth, Pete, because the way that the mixer is laid out, they don't have the inserts laid out into the mixer like every other DAW does, where it's just easily accessible and you can enable and disable them. It's very, very different. They run them down at the bottom of the mixer in a separate window. Now, this is the key point. Right. Because it's in a separate window, as soon as you click on it, it shifts the focus. So you can't move then you've got to shift back to the other mixer to scroll across to the next track. It's a fucking nightmare. I haven't worked my way around that one yet. But look, that's something that I can work on during over the year. in regards to the testing, I don't want to get too bogged down with this because then maybe the RAN alarm might start up. But, in previous shows, we've kind of discussed other people that had been, doing some work with the benchmarking. There hasn't been a lot. There was one guy in Europe that he kind of dropped off. I actually offered him to bring him into the DAWbench beta stuff, and he just says, no, I prefer to use my own stuff. I went, okay, that's fine. But then he just disappeared, which is a bit disappointing. There's a guy on YouTube that does a lot of the Mac stuff, and that's one of the focuses for 2026 is we're going to be doing more Mac stuff. And this just leads me into, and I will cover some of the recent testing. Anyone who wants to get the full bottle and the detail, I've written some very detailed reports and I posted them up over the Christmas break. So anyone can actually, if they want to kind of get caught up with the more detail, they can actually read those. But how I got kind of dragged back into the mix testing. The mix session, just as a refresher, that's the session that has, it's based on a real-world session that Marcus had configured for me, and we'd ported that across to 3 or 4 doors. It's across 5 now, and what kind of led us to getting into that investigation was that he was noticing that the thread management on his Mac M1 versus his, what was it back? There was a 7950 AMD at the time, and if you remember, there was all of this. The main situation was that the thread management on the AMD was somehow ignoring the bottom 16. Remember, and there was all this discussion, and we've covered this a few times. But the discussion was, well, what's going on there? There has to be some type of weird core affinity stuff going on. Is it incorrectly applying the Intel thread management to that's what it looked like, And I remember you saying to me, well, Vin, we don't exactly know. I said, well, of course we don't. I'm just looking, I'm looking at it, observing it, going, this is what it looks like, right? So we dove in pretty deep with that for about 6 months, and we closed off in the middle of 2024, right? And we had our, we didn't really get a resolution, but we had our confirmation, and Steinberg had said to us, hey, look, there's no quick fix for this at the moment. So I'd left it, right? And I just focused on developing all the sessions for the other DAWs. They became integral in the Windows on ARM testing, and I did some reports on that. And that session was really interesting because you could see the thread management even on the Windows on ARM, right? So we had the thread management for that session across multiple doors and across 3 different platforms, right? And again, I call that the deal breaker, that session, because it does throw up some challenges, the word. It does throw up some threading challenges to the respective DAWs. So fast forward to about November 2025, and I'd written an article that was, the premise of the article was basically highlighting the lack of threading from 32 to 64. That was the main article, right? The main premise of the article was that, yes, we can go into these big Threadripper and Xeon type systems with these massive core counts, but what is the actual real benefit into DAWs? So Pete had done a stack of testing. I collated it. I wrote a report, and it showed that there was literally 0 to 5%, even in the best case scenario, even Reaper. There was really nothing going on in this type of test session. You can do the empirical stuff that made it look like it was double the performance, but close to double the performance. But once you start getting into a session where you've got groups and buses and more of a real world mix session, we weren't really getting anything. Like I said, it was single figure stuff. So that was the report, but I put a chart up on it just showing the performance across various DAWs, and of course the gallery kicked up, and the accusation was that I was being purposely misrepresentative. And I've gone, well, how does that work? Did you read the article? Well, no, I just looked at the graph. I went, well, read the article, put it into context. So that led into some discussion that got further and further in, and the discussion landed on the Steinberg Forum, and I hadn't been at the Steinberg Forum for 15 plus years, Pete, right?
Why is that?
Right.
That was just my choice, Chris. There was too many. There was just too many fucking trolls there. You know, I'm sick of playing pigeon chess with basically there was a handful of people that every time I went over they just jumped on me, right? So I just went, you know what, you can have it. And there was never really any interaction with meaningful interaction from the Steinberg crew either. So I stayed away from there and did my own thing. Anyway, I got dragged back in, which kind of proved. Well, look, there was a lot of positives in me getting dragged back in because, one, I had to explain and detail what was actually going on in the report, which kind of led into further discussion. And then that led to an engagement with one of the Steinberg reps, Matthias, who was a lovely guy, right? He was very, very respectful, but we did end up in a pretty, I wouldn't say heated, but it was a pretty deep discussion. Pete, you read it. There wasn't any kind of animosity from either side, I don't think. I thought it was quite respectful from both sides.
Yeah, I don't know. It depends on the mindset when you read it, you know.
Yeah, okay.
I understood where you were coming from, so I knew it wasn't meant to be that way. But if somebody's already on the defense, then, you know.
Yeah. But Matthias wasn't really on the defense. There was some of the gallery were definitely, you know, probably in that camp. Look, Matthias he wasn't really, I wouldn't say defensive. He was being careful in his interaction. And so the discussion is something that is actually worth reading, and the people can get into that if they prefer. But there was various things that we kind of discovered from that interaction was that there is a lot of technical debt, and this is I don't know, not the roadblock, but this is the minefield, I suppose, that we're kind of trying to navigate at the moment with getting a resolution with what's actually happening there. And of course, then the discussion comes up with the threading routines and are there core affinity routines, bespoke core affinity routines, and you know the point was made. You know, you're just making assumptions. I said, well, yeah, okay, fair enough. You make not the accusation, but it was noted that anything that I was presenting in regards to what I felt was a bespoke core affinity routine was that this is from the outside. I couldn't possibly know what was going on under the bonnet, which is fair enough, and you've made that point. But those points that I make are always from observation and testing and application, right? That's the only thing I can report on. And it's pretty obvious there was things, the dots were not being connected correctly there. And the discussion led to, well, why is it working so well on Apple Mac? Now, this is the big one that I suppose kind of, well, it's not a smoking gun, but this is a really interesting one for me because the discussion then said, well, you know, on Apple OS, on Mac OS, we basically are handing the threading to the appropriate API, right? So the OS actually handles the thread management. I went, well, that's great. Well, that's all we're asking for the Windows. They're going, well, it's not quite that easy, right? And again, it comes back to the technical debt. I go, okay, fair enough. But that's all we're really discussing. If at any time in the future that the thread management on Windows can actually be assigned to the appropriate Windows whether they're the API, so you got on Intel, it's the
thread management on Cubase, you mean?
Yeah, thread director and the Windows scheduling, and you know, I know there's 3 doors that actually recognize and work perfectly with that, and then the others that have various kind of variations of where that kind of lands. Now, what we discovered was that, and this was because Marcus, who's a very close friend of mine in the UK, got sick to death of the Windows scheduling stuff. And after that discussion, he's gone, well, look, this isn't going to get fixed anytime soon. Bugger it, I'm buying a Mac. So he's jumped, right? And he went and bought, and Chris wasn't aware of this, so he went and bought an M3 Ultra, right?
Ooh.
So what are we talking about? In UK, I think it was like 8 to 10K, right? Massive,
a lot of money.
Massive system. Yeah, massive system. So he's gone, bugger it, I'm gonna jump because, you know, he's like me, he's a lifelong Cubase user. Yes, he knows his way around the other DAWs. He's tried, you know, working with various others. He's going, no, I always keep coming back to Cubase. I'm sick to death of this Windows scheduling. What's the point of me having 32 logical cores available, and it's ignoring the top 16. So this is what was kind of happening in his mix environments. And he went, bugger, I'm going Mac, because his M1 was using the cores beautifully. And, we had the discussion with the Steinberg guys, and they just said, well, we're using the API. It's just handling the scheduling over to the Mac OS. So fast forward this, Chris, and and then you can read this in the reports, but he gets a 28 core. So it's not the 32 core, but it's the 28 core. So it's one down from the top, right? And he fires up our deal breaker test session, and he's expecting this thing to be perfectly load managing, load spreading and thread managing across the whole 28. And guess what? It's missing the top half of the cores. It's just completely ignoring them. So the penny dropped that we went, what the actual fuck is going on here? So the thread management and the core affinity routines that we thought were just specifically on Windows, it's actually on Mac as well, but only above a particular core count, right? And we don't know where the trigger is on Mac, but we know quite definitely that once you get above a core count, it just ignores everything above. So that is not, to me, that is not handing the thread management to the OS API. That looks like a core affinity routine to me. So that's where we are with the testing. That's caused a bit of a ripple, obviously. And that's what I'm going to be focusing on more this year. So there's going to be more Mac testing.
So Vin, one thing I was curious is, so after he had dropped all that cash for that Mac, and then it didn't do what he wants.
Yep. Like,
had he already sold his PC, or like
he just kept it? He kept the Mac. Yeah. He's trying to sell the Windows one. He goes, look, after dropping 8K on it, he goes, bugger it. I'm just keeping the Mac. If the thread scheduling is going to get fixed on Cubase, I'd say it would probably get fixed on Mac first.
Maybe, or you just saved everybody 8K. So they don't jump ship and do that.
Yeah. But and that was like the penny just went wow. But the one thing, so I kept following these breadcrumbs because some of the people in the gallery were just dismissing this, going, "Oh, look, there's nothing even to fix. That's just Steinberg using their proprietary core affinity routines." I'm going, "Can you repeat that, please? What are you talking about?" Right? So I started following some breadcrumbs, right? And about this one. So I started following some breadcrumbs because I hadn't been in the forum for years. And then I discovered at around Cubase 13 that they actually accidentally leaked a beta screenshot, like a screenshot of a beta version of Cubase on Windows that had multiple selections for core affinity options. I went, what the where was this, right? So they've obviously been playing with it. At the release of Cubase 13, there was even reports on the forum where they're just saying, "Oh, I don't know what's going on here, but anything that's not an Intel hybrid, the performance has gone down the drain." I've gone, fucking no shit, Sherlock, right? Because, obviously whatever that actually applied was actually breaking the previous. This is what I've been reporting for the last 2 years. Anyway, so let's just move on from that because I know.
So let me ask you this.
Yes.
If I'm a Cubase user.
Yes.
And I'm about to go and buy a computer.
Yes.
How many cores and what kind of processor should I be buying before I run into these problems?
To get the best performance out of Cubase at the moment, it's the Intel hybrids, right? So they've actually, I know that they've been massaging the whatever core affinity routines. They've been massaging those on the 285K because I've got and it's in the reports. I got screens from when I initially did the 285K, and it wasn't recognizing what were the P and what were the E. Right? It was still applying the core affinity routines from the 13th and 14th gen, right?
So it's not the processor based on how many cores it has?
No.
Okay.
It's actually the threading routines, right?
Okay.
The later, and you can see the screens, the later tests that I did, identical test session, right, on a build that I did in November, December, and this is currently my dev system as well, right? It actually now recognizes what the P and E cores are. So they've done some work, but it's not, they haven't handed it to Windows, right?
Okay. So watch this space.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they actually kind of resolve that a little bit better. But if you get an AMD machine, you're missing the top 16. All right. If you get an Intel 15th gen, it'll now recognize all the performance cores. Well, actually, the 285. This is weird. On the 265, it actually ignores the last two. Again, this can't be an OS level scheduling routine, right? This is kind of like hard set core affinity routines, and they're going, let's throw that at that. Hang on. I'm going to ignore the last two because the routine that I've actually assigned to it is for a CPU with extra cores. So seeing they aren't there, I'm just going to ignore the last two. So this is the type of stuff that I'm trying to get my head around. Actually, I've given up trying to get my head around. I know exactly what's going on. For me, at least, I know what's going on. I'm going to be monitoring it over the course of 2026. I can do it across 5 different DAWs now. And I've got to tell you, some of the DAWs that are actually recognizing and performing really well on these new Intels, you'd be surprised, Chris, right? They don't have hybrid playback engines, right? I'll tell you, Bitwig perfectly recognizes the performance cores and the economy cores and thread managers to them, and Sonar does as well. So you've got Reaper, Sonar, and Bitwig. They're the 3, and then the others are kind of varying, right? Studio One is kind of floating somewhere in between what Cubase does and what the others do. And I haven't even entered that discussion yet because I want to start testing the new Studio Pro, see if there's any changes.
Sounds like a segue.
Yes. I think, look, let's just round up that. There's a lot of testing. I don't want Chris to start hitting the rant button, so we'll just move on.
Oh, we're close.
Are you?
Yeah, he had it ready.
Did he? Oh, okay.
I know it.
Hang on, I'm just kind of grabbing something myself because all I'm going to say, Chris, is you're quite welcome to hit the rant button, but don't go off half-cocked.
Well,
all right?
We're not ranting.
Do not go half-cocked because there might be a response.
Righto.
Sorry, Chris, if you hit the rant button, Vin's going to shit himself. I think
that's what it is. All right, so where are we? Okay, so we've covered DAWbench 2026. So look, if anyone listening in wants to actually have a play with the new sessions, please do. Cross 5 different DAWs now, at least the DSP. The virtual instrument ones are very easy to actually get up and running now. You do have to download and install some plugins and virtual instruments, obviously, and some libraries, but that's all in the list. So all the links are there. So everything's kind of just nice and easy for you if you want to kind of run that. So please go and check them out.
And congratulations again on the release. And thanks to the other Pete for so much of that testing.
Yeah. Thank you. And Pete, and it's good that we got to give Pete some kudos as well because, he's kind of like my, he's like not my secret tester or anything, but he doesn't get as much recognition with the DAWbench stuff, and without him, half of this stuff just wouldn't get done. And also Mark
from Scan,
and also Marcus from Marcus in the UK, who's been amazing, especially with this mixed test session stuff, and he's also helped me previously with like Reaper virtual instrument sessions and stuff. So he's been really, really cool. That's Marcus Cliff in the UK, and I've got some other really cool guys that are helping me behind the scenes as well. That have stepped up and helped me with the current testing, and they're all mentioned in the article. So go have a bit of a read. All right, so this is next one. Oh boy, so it's the Music Tech Business Roundup, including acquisitions. Now, I know everyone's probably rolling their eyes now, but shit, there's been a lot going on there. So I'll just cover some real quickly because the big one is probably the Native Instruments, which is not really an acquisition, but it's kind of hit the wall. So after the acquisitions. So I'll just go really quickly. And some of these actually are directly they're directly associated with Chris as well in kind of some form. So Manly Labs, which is mostly hardware. I think they got some software as well. But they were acquired by a company called Rockforce Tech Holdings. Now, what's interesting there is Rockforce Tech Holdings, the owner is a guy called Dirk Ulrich. Now, he's the ex-Brainworks Plugin Alliance guy, right? That was bought out and cashed out by the acquisitions by Native Instruments, which we're going to segue into a little bit later. So that's the one guy there. He actually acquired Apogee late last year, November 2025. So have you got any thoughts on that one, Chris? Is that because you're the Apogee dealer here in Australia, the distributor here in Australia? Is there anything kind of changing there for you?
Not really. I met Dirk. He was at the Apogee distributor pre-NAMM party that they had.
Yep.
He's a really nice guy. He's a bit of a software, hardware, rather be in front of a mixing console kind of guy.
Yep.
And he got up and spoke, and what he said was, I sold my companies. I did really well. I had a break. I'm bored. And I want a new project.
Yeah, perfect.
The new project, I don't know why the Manly thing happened. I think maybe that's something he had his eye on. But for Apogee, again, I think he's set himself a bit of a vision or a task to have these companies kind of design some hybrid, tube-based mastering / audio interface products. So
that'd be cool.
He's driving that, and he's very passionate about it. So it'd be interesting to see what comes from that, whether these two companies can sort of share some R&D and some DNA and develop some new products. And that's basically a lot of what he had to say, which, is exciting if that happens. I think it will.
Yep.
I mean, when you've got an engineer driving that, it's a bit different to an owner of a company, even though he's both.
Yep.
So we'll see, and we were having a lot of chats about this during NAMM, but I think the other thing with a lot of these companies that are getting acquired and sold or whatever's happening is a lot of these owners of these companies have been doing this a long time, right? So there's a point where, I know for Betty, she's at the age now where there's grandkids around. She's been at it a long time. I guess there was a trigger to sell, and why not? You've spent a long time doing that. Hey, I hope in 10 years' time I can do the same thing with my company. So, I think the challenge is having those two companies still running and doing their own thing, but at the same time developing some new product, because that would make some more interesting product.
Yeah.
So it's a positive, I think.
Yeah. Well, look, I'd much prefer having someone like Dirk steering this bus than the private equity, /
100%.
venture capitalist firms that are more interested in KPIs, and return on investment, ROIs. We can start using all the acronyms, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, which is not the case in this particular acquisition. So this is an interesting one down the track to keep an eye on. Maybe 12 months' time, next NAMM show, there's some interesting developments there.
Yeah, so that was one. And I mean, did the Apogee one kind of caught me a little bit by surprise.
It happened pretty quickly. I think it caught everybody.
Did you know anything about it? Did you get any whispers prior?
No, it happened pretty quick. Yeah. No, I think I'm not sure the circumstances, but it's certainly something that, pre that November-ish NAMM sort of getting ready that it went down. So, it's maybe there was just some deal struck there, and who knows?
Yeah, no. Oh, that's good.
We did go across and see Bob's new studio, which is across the road from Apogee. So that was cool. He had us in there for a little bit.
Yeah, the one that replaced the one that got burnt in the Palisades.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably got a little bit to do with what might have happened as well. Those guys just need a bit of a fresh start.
Yep.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I mean, a lot of these owners have been around for a long time. So if they get the opportunity to cash out and at least maintain some involvement, it is very appealing. But we're going to move on, because some of these deals do end up in a totally different place. So Lander is another one. They've acquired Reason Studio I thought Lander was kind of like this online mastering type of operation. No, I don't know too much about them, but I thought that's what they were. I thought that you'd pop up your sessions and they'd kind of do some online mastering. But they've acquired Reason Studio. which is an interesting move. And one of the first things they did was that they actually separated the rack from the main DAW. So you can actually buy the Reason rack, with all the synths and the sequences and the drum machines and all of the plugins, and that is completely separate to the DAW now, which is interesting, because previously we used to have to use Reason and what was it? Rewire. I don't even know whether is that still around in the DAWs now with the Rewire?
I don't think so. That was a bit hairy.
Yeah. So and look, Reason Studios and Reason was a very interesting kind of case study in respect that they stayed away from VST or third-party plugins for many, many years. Probably a little bit too long. And so the only way you could actually access any of those plugins within a different DAW is via Rewire. So now this is now a VST3 rack. So that's interesting.
I really like that. I mean, I used to sell Reason a long, long time ago, and I loved it.
Yep.
And then I sort of not steered away from it, but I think other things happened. And I'm straight back in. I've got the rack version running, and I think it's a really cool idea.
Yeah. No, there's some amazing instruments in there, and I've like you, I always really liked Reason, but I mean, having to rewire it and all the rest of it, just it comes to the point where you want to kind of streamline your workflow, and you don't really kind of want to run additional kind of protocols and stuff. So, I think that is a good move from Lander. So that's an interesting one. Now, we're going to start talking about the elephant in the room now, and this is this is Native Instruments, and this only happened on the 27th of January. So what's today? I don't know. What's that? 9th. So we're recording this on the 9th of February. So this is only a couple of weeks old. I mean, the internet is actually just lit up.
Well, now you're in trouble. Now you're going to have to edit this real quick.
Yeah, I am. Yeah. So look, the internet just lit up with this one. I mean, it just landed in my inbox, and a friend of mine just posted on my timeline going, "Have you heard about this?" I'm going, "How can you not hear about it? It's fucking everywhere." And so, like in a nutshell, Native Instruments, the reports are that it has entered preliminary insolvency. Right now. Believe it or not, I've been doing a whole stack of investigation here, guys, and I've given you 3 pages of notes. We're not going to go through it. I've written an article for anyone who wants to go through the 3 pages of notes. So just in a nutshell, Native Instruments has been on a bit of a roller coaster with private equity. So I'm going to just try and do my rundown as quickly as I can. Right. So in 2017, I'm not sure whether I knew about this, and I may have. 2017, that was the first private equity investment. 50 million euro is reported. Right. So the initial idea then was, accelerate growth, expand, doing the usual kind of thing when people are investing a stack of money, and the people there were called EMH Partners. Now, with that, the founders and EMH kept significant ownership, right? So the founders were still, I don't know whether they had the majority or EMH had the majority, but all the ownership was just literally shared between the founders and this private equity firm, right? So it remained under the original leadership. Now, if we fast forward to about 2021. Now, in that meantime, the founders had stepped down in about 2020, so things were probably starting to go a little bit skewed. And 2021, this is when Francisco Partners stepped in, right? Now, these are a US-based private equity firm, so it's moved from a German to a US-based. They've bought a majority stake from both EMH and the founders, right? EMH maintained a small amount, but the founders have basically cashed out, right? So Native Instruments was now essentially in the hands of, investment equity companies, right? The original founders had already gone. So they went on a bit of a buying spree back then, if everyone remembers. So they acquired Isotope and then Plugin Alliance / Brainworks. So that's from Dirk, right? Who we just mentioned earlier. So Brainworks and Plugin Alliance was Dirk's original companies. And this is the I suppose the sticking point was that they placed the cost of the acquisition on Native Instruments, right? So that was like a leverage. They actually, they leveraged a loan to actually make those acquisitions. The numbers I'm going to go through in a second, quite staggering how much they actually leveraged to get that. Now, so they went basically from, an investment where they were focusing on growth to a complete takeover by these guys, right? So 2022 to 2023. Now, I don't know if you guys remember this one, but so apparently the parent company, they renamed it Soundwide. Now,
right.
Can you remember when that happened?
Yeah.
You can, because the only thing that I remember is when they changed it back, right? So they made this big announcement going, we're changing it back from Soundwide to Native Instruments. I'm going, what do you mean changing it back to Native Instruments? I had no idea that even changed the parent.
They made a bit of an announcement about it being the group of all the companies together, the isotope and everything like that. But that's why it fell flat, which is why they ended up
changing it back. Yeah, so then they ended up changing it back. That was 2023. So we're going to just kind of fast forward a little bit now. Now, I don't know exactly what was happening there in regards to who was still steering the bus there, but I do know that Dirk, who was still on an advisory board there at we'll call it Native Instruments, the parent, right? He left in 2024, and there's some public announcements that he made, and he can speak for himself there. He wasn't very, very happy with the direction and his input, or his lack of input there. So he bailed, right? So I don't know what's going on with the isotope guys, whether they're still around or not at an advisory level. I'm not, again, there's all these grey areas that I'm still trying to connect. But fast forward to December 2025, and Francisco Partners have sold essentially the whole lot to another company called Bridgeport Bain. And they're the guys that actually, short time later, so literally about a month later, on the 27th of Jan, they called in the insolvency, right? So the insolvency proceedings is for it's the parent companies. This is where it gets really kind of sketchy, and maybe you can help me with some of this, Chris, because you're kind of probably better with companies and stuff. So you've got Native Instruments GmbH. That's the main parent company in Germany, right? Which is more than Native Instruments, actually encompasses the others, right? Then you've got there's a holding company and a group. Now, apparently those last two, they were shell companies. This is the whisper, right? And Music Creation Micro. So there was three different other companies. Now, the reports are that the main holding company plus those other three are actually the entities that are in part of this preliminary insolvency, right? So what led us to this, right? Now, the company insolvency is now being handled by a guy called, wait for this one, Professor Dr. Torsten Martini. Whew, wait, that's a bloody title and a half. Now,
it's like a James Bond villain name.
Yeah. He's listed as the primary insolvency administrator. So, look, without too much speculation, NI and I reckon the various assets will be sold off in some form. I mean, I think that's the only way out. And the process is really out of the hands of the executives and the owners. It's up to this administrator now. Now, the good news is that apparently this guy has got a really good track record of actually not gutting and scuttling the companies, right? So that he finds some type of solution where they kind of survive in some type of entity, which is a good thing, right? But just to give you an idea of some of the financials, there's a couple that I've found, but I'll read this one, right? They had, as of 2020, their filings for 2023, 2024, they had cumulative losses of 288 million euros. That's $339 million US. And that had accrued during 2023, 2024. That is a huge loss, right? And then they had maturities coming up on the loans of approximately 262 million euro, 309 million in debt. I don't know, how would you even service that on the turnover of those three companies? So this is what's actually triggered this.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that, guys?
Before Chris jumps in, because this is more his expertise than mine, I just wanted to say that, so I have a lot of friends at NI and Isotope and sort of the company itself. And this has to have been hell for them to go through all this time with the constant churn and stuff. So, I mean, NI folks, my heart goes out to you, and I hope you come through this better on the end, but damn, I wouldn't want to be there right now.
Yeah. I mean, and we always tend to forget, hang on, there's people here that are actually got their heart and souls invested in this stuff that now all of a sudden is in the hands of basically, investment administrators and stuff. Very, very sad. Chris, you got any thoughts?
Well, it's a big company, isn't it? I mean, it's a lot of different brands there.
Massive.
I did read the press release that I think the CEO put out, saying that they were pretty confident that they had some buyers to possibly buy all of it, or some of the brands sort of lined up that they were speaking to. So let's kind of hope that happens. But I think it's been a bit rocky for them for a little bit of time. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that initial expansion, I mean, to get an idea, I mean, they must have, I mean, to be that much in debt, right, and to be saddled with that much debt, man, what did they pay for those companies, right? So someone's cashed out nicely, right? And there was no way that the company was going to be able to recoup that quickly.
That's a lot of subscriptions.
Fucking hell, that's a lot of money, man. I don't know what they were, And I actually made a note in my my article, and I will kind of pass this on. I do remember when that whole Soundwide / cumulative umbrella of companies came together, and I was getting flooded, and I don't know whether you guys were or not, but I was getting flooded with emails from these guys, but not only Native Instruments stuff that I own, but also Isotope and Plugin Alliance. Now, I'm not on the Isotope and Plugin Alliance mailing list, but all of a sudden they decided to add me, and I was just getting flooded, right? And one of the trigger points for me was that when I hadn't opened an email, and 2 days later I get this fucking email going, "Oh, we noticed you hadn't opened your email." And I've gone, "Hey, what? How the fuck did you know I didn't open the email?" So I'm messaging Pete, and he's going, "Yeah, Vin, there's probably a hidden pixel, what do they call them? Web beacons, right?" And I've gone, right, so you're tracking whether I'm even opening an email on a email message on a mailing list that I wasn't even signed up to. And they've said, "Look, would you prefer for us to take you off the mailing list?" I said, "Hey, I tell you what, I'll just do it myself." And I removed myself from all of them. So if the initial idea was to actually increase engagement, it actually backfired. Well, for me, it did. All right. So that's when I kind of noticed there was a very definite shift to the dynamic of what was going on there. That Dirk left in 2024, and you guys, if you can go to his Facebook page, you'll see the post. He wasn't very happy. Yeah, he was not very, very happy. He got forwarded on, and he's kind of heartbroken at the moment. He's quite gutted at what's going on at the moment. But I don't think he's in a position to actually save him and buy him back. But that would have been his legacy that is now getting gutted. So, Chris, have you got any? What do you? Give us a couple of scenarios, because I've got a couple of. Hopefully, I've got some positive scenarios. So, what do you think is going to be happening?
Look, I mean, I own one of the complete hard drive packs. I think I've had it for a little bit of time before even some of these newer plugins were added.
Yep.
And there's a lifetime worth of content.
Yeah.
I mean, you almost can't get through it. There's so much stuff.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm not sure I completely understand buying more because, how much stuff can you possibly offer? But I think I don't know, my personal opinion, it'll probably get split up.
Yeah.
The different brands will probably split up. That's probably what they want to aim for.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's what happens.
Yeah. Well, look, my read is this. There's no way in the world that Contact can disappear, because it's not just a sampler, it's the whole environment with all of the licensing and the eco space with all of the libraries. I think the scary thing for a lot of the developers now that have actually invested in this, they actually rely on the Native Instruments, Native Access, their servers, right, to actually activate the licenses. So there's no way that it can actually disappear, because could you imagine the level of disruption if Native Instruments as an entity disappears and those servers get shut down? I can't fathom it.
not just the servers, but the contact players and stuff themselves. Think of all the companies that have built their libraries around that.
Yeah. But the thing is that, if you've got it installed and it's working, it's fine, right? Unless you have to reinstall it and then you have to activate it, right? So if you've got a system now that's working and that all your libraries and your instruments are actually activated, that's fine. But the point comes up, okay, what if we have to install a new system and those servers are shut down? Then you're screwed, right? So that's the eco space that is currently being navigated. I personally think that Native Instruments as the individual entity, not as the parent company, as the individual, I think even if they save contact, that would be a positive. And I think there's so much value in that product, and more so in the licensing in the eco space. Someone's going to have to pick that up. Who picks it up is going to be the question. I've heard some names getting bandied around, and let me tell you, if it starts with an A and it's a fruit, we don't want it to go there because then they'll just shut down any Windows kind of development. So I've got my fingers crossed that that's not
We've
going
seen
there.
that before.
Yeah, we have. So I think Contact will survive at least. I'm not sure about the other stuff.
I could see their DJ ecosystem being its own thing, right? If you Tractor and Machina and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like all their other hardware directly feeds into contact consumption. So it's kind of like that's all together.
Yeah. How many companies are really in a position where they could actually save this? So that's going to be the other question as well.
Well, not the whole thing. That's, I think, what we're saying, isn't it? It's probably going to be individual.
Yeah, I'm talking Native Instruments, Chris. I'm not really talking about Isotope and Plug-in Alliance and Brainworks. Let's kind of separate them for a moment, because apparently those companies, well, from what I could read, are not even part of this preliminary insolvency. I don't know how that can be the case, because the way that they've actually put forwarded the insolvency documents, it's only for the companies that are registered in Germany, where these other companies are registered in America, but it's still part of the same holding company, right? So let's, my focus is Native Instruments, all right? I'm hoping that someone actually at least picks up parts of it, or if not all of it. I don't know about Plug-in Alliance and Brainworks, to tell you the truth. Is there that much money to be had in that environment? Look, it'd have to be, but I don't know what the dollar value would be. And Isotope, I don't know. I don't use the Isotope.
Yeah, they're hard to gauge, aren't they? Probably more than you think, I reckon.
Yeah, but we've got an idea how much they paid for them, with that debt that they've been settled with. So that's a lot of money to kind of recoup. There's no way that those companies are worth that much. Well, not in my view. So there you go.
Well, it depends on their subscription base, doesn't it?
Yeah. But Native Instruments is an interesting one. And we just quickly cover the licensing part of it, because apparently the golden egg to all of this, the money pot for Native Instruments is actually the licensing for Contact Player. Now, we kind of covered this a little bit, Pete, but I found out a little bit more about it. So if you are a software library developer and you want to release it on Contact, if you release it on the full version, there's a one-off licensing fee, and then they can put it into the native access, and you're fine, right? So that there's not and the licensing is actually not as expensive as anywhere near what the player version is.
Right, because the customer pays for it at that point.
Yeah, right. With the player version, and now this is cool. We kind of discussed it a little bit on the Sonoscore show, but we didn't go into great detail. So this is what I've discovered since, and this will probably surprise you, Pete, that if you want to release a library on player, you don't pay per license. So say, for example, someone downloads a freeware version of your library, and then they activate it, and then Sonoscore or whoever else, they've got to pay for that license, right? For the privilege of the person using it for free. You have to buy the licenses in bulk, right? I don't know what the minimum number is, but apparently it's quite high. So can you imagine being a a library developer, and you've got, your first instrument that you're releasing to the public. You have no idea whether it's going to be a success or whether you're going to sell 10 copies, 20 copies, 100 copies. And then imagine saying that the minimum buy is 1,000. Yeah, and you got to buy the 1,000 licenses in advance, right? How would you actually even justify that? And this is why I think we're seeing more and more of these library developers moving onto either their dedicated kind of players or onto, actually more of the dedicated players or their third party. So I'll give you two examples. East West and VSL were preliminary in the early days. They were both on Contact, right? And then they developed their own players, right? So we've got East West and now got Opus. We won't talk about Play, but then now we've got Opus. And VSL have always had their instrument and ensemble products, right? But then you're seeing more and more of these other companies, things like Spitfire and various others, have got their dedicated players. Now, this is the interesting thing for me, is those dedicated players, I don't know whether they have the actual ability to be able to code them from scratch. My feeling is that they're actually third-party sample engines that then they are actually licensing and using. So one of them is Gorilla Engine, which is from the guys over at UJAM. We had Peter on the show. Gorilla Engine is very clearly listed driving the Crow Hill stuff. That's the guy that's ex Spitfire. So I think more and more people are going to be, especially after this, if they're getting a little bit anxious, we'll probably be looking at third-party engines. Now, when it comes to third-party engines, there's one that is being development at the moment. It's an Australian company. Chris, I don't know if you've spotted this one. They were at NAMM and they were causing a bit of a buzz, and the sampler is called Coda. Did you see those guys at all?
No. Coda.
Yeah, Australian company. I think they're from New South Wales, the couple of guys that are developing this thing. It looks amazing, actually. And it's a synth it's a sampler. It's got a lot of synthesizer aspects to it as well. And it looks like something that could go head to head with Contact. It's still pretty early. I've actually contacted the developers because I want to get in very, very early with this. That one looks very, very good, and that could be an alternative. But right now, let's look at this realistically. If Contact goes away, there isn't anything that can fill that void, right? And as much as I don't even want to think about it going away, it's not like we haven't been here before. Because I'm going to bring something up, Chris, and you'll go, oh, yeah. You remember Giga Sampler / Giga Studio?
Yeah.
That built a huge environment, right? They had a huge user base. They had a whole ecospace with all the developers writing specifically for this. And what happened to that?
Not much.
Well, it literally disappeared overnight.
Yeah.
Right? Tascam, so it went from Nemesis, so it was the original developers. It got bought out by Tascam at around version 2. They released version 3, and literally, literally the week or a couple of days after they released version 3, they pulled the plug on it. And so everyone's like, well, what do you mean? So gone, right? And also activation servers were going down as well. So Tascam literally pulled the plug on it. And a stack of the developers actually moved over to, out of necessity, and desperation. That's when they started moving over to Contact, and the rest is history, all right? So it's not like we haven't been here before. I can't envision that happening again, though. Well, I'm hoping it doesn't happen again anyway.
Another watch this space.
Yeah.
These guys that get employed to do this kind of stuff are they're kind of pros. They know how to sell stuff. They know what to do with it.
The administrator.
Let's just hope it. Yeah, the administrators.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's hope for a good result.
Yeah, he's got a good record of not gutting it,
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. I reckon we can move on from NI, I think.
Yep.
New major releases. Now, this one, Cubase 15, Steinberg are on that kind of 12-month cycle. They kind of come up with a couple of new tools and stuff, but primarily for me, where I'm focusing hasn't really changed that much. This one is an interesting one because it directly, you have some involvement here. Studio Pro 8, aka Studio One, has now been rebranded as Studio Pro 8, which is part of the largest
Fender Studio Pro 8.
Sorry. Well, I was getting there. Which is part of the larger Fender studio environment. So yes, sorry, Fender Studio Pro 8. So
It's actually just Fender Studio Pro. But anyway, it's okay. There's no 8 in it.
Oh, you're right.
isn't there?
No.
Okay, so that was a big one, right? You probably knew it was incoming. So there's a major rebranding, and not only the software but also the interfaces as well, which kind of threw me a little bit.
Big change.
Yeah, and of course the internet's kind of in fucking
Line up.
They're in meltdown. You know. I had a conversation with Michael. I don't know if he shared some of my thoughts with that one. You know, Fender for me, I always get an eye twitch, and that's only simply because of nothing to do with the current company, but from my history back in my past life. I just remember dealing with that corporate level of involvement that was really I disliked. You know, so I had some scars from that one. And so I had the discussion with Michael going, you know, I'm kind of struggling putting Fender on the website because there's absolutely no correlation to any of the music technology and pro audio stuff. But as you know, I've actually kind of, bit my lip and moved that across. Reading some of that fallout, what are your thoughts there, Chris?
Well, I mean, look, I think it's a positive thing because since Fender had bought PreSonus has sort of just been bopping along, sort of doing its thing, but we haven't really seen a lot of new stuff. There was a bit of a lack of what's going to happen. And I think rebranding this gives it, it secures it a little bit because when the big Fender marketing machine starts to kick in, it kicks in pretty hard.
Yep.
And I think for the guys at Hamburg, which are all still there, nothing's really changed.
Right.
This is a real positive thing for them because it kind of secures their place and it secures the constant future releases of Studio One or Fender Pro now, which I think is a really good. And having spoken to a lot of them at NAMM, they're very pumped. They're very happy because I think maybe there was a little bit of, well, we're not really sure what's going to happen here. We know, well, I know for a fact that over a long period of time, the biggest selling interfaces are the 1 and 2 channel interfaces. That's across all brands. And you've got to say that a large percentage of that market is probably guitarists or, single singer kind of writers that are doing that. So I think it probably appeals to that end of the market a great deal.
Yep.
And I think that end of the market will pick up a lot of traction. It's kind of exciting for us because we weren't quite sure if we were going to keep distributing this brand.
Yep.
And we now have a brand that we exclusively distribute that has Fender on it, which is, wouldn't have picked that a year or two ago. The guys with the 8-channel interfaces that maybe are not guitarists, well, they need to make a bit of a decision now. Is it going to bother them, the rebranding? I saw a lot of the forums blow up and then I saw a few days later, a week later, I've actually loaded this and some of the features are really cool. Yeah.
You're talking about the software. Yeah, of course.
Well, I mean, the update to what they are sort of saying is a progressive version 8. It's been in the making for a little bit of time. So, this is another bit of an interesting one. I think it's got some legs where it's going. And we'll see what happens with the rest of it. I mean, I would love to know, and I don't think we'll ever find out, but it would be really interesting to know what the subscription base for the software was in November and what it might be in, say, April or May, 4 or 5 months down the track. Have all those people that have had a blow up temporarily on the forums actually bailed, or are they still sitting there being users being very happy because,
they didn't leave.
Of course.
Typical internet.
Correct. There's no way they didn't leave, So it is a bit of an interesting move and a positive one, I think, because we all know that when things go bad, when these kind of things happen, it's because the people leave. And we've seen that in other software companies. When you lose your main guys, then it's very hard to pick up that momentum. And certainly that Hamburg team that does such a massively great job is tight-knit and all there and super pumped up. So, the next version and the next version, I'm sort of expecting some good things.
Yeah. So it's Studio Pro. There's no 8.
Correct. It's Fender Studio Pro, and then the iPad version that is the basic version that the Hamburg team made that's free is just called Fender Studio.
Yes,
so it's
correct.
an ecosystem of product.
It's in the Windows Store as well, not just iPad.
Correct. Yep. You can get on the Windows Store as well, but it's more. It's and there's some real magic. There's some real sort of PreSonus DNA in that. I'm probably sure they don't want me to say that, but you can grab the iPad version and you can open up a copy of your Fender Pro, and the 4-track session that you've just done, in your hotel room, last week can be magically ported. And open up in Studio Pro with one click of a button. I mean, there's some kind of really interesting and cool stuff that's been developed there, and that's all the Hamburg guys. Mm-hmm. So you can kind of see maybe the vision that Fender might have had a couple of years ago with how this might work. And there's also the apps that allow you to practice along and do all that other sort of thing. So, look, we're going to be at the Sydney Guitar Show in about five weeks or so.
Well, that'll be an interesting litmus test for you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how. I mean, I can tell you now the Fender Studio booth at NAMM was absolutely pumping. Yeah, you couldn't get anywhere near it. So we'll see if that sort of continues on here. But I think there's curiosity. People want to see what this has to offer, and hopefully a lot of new customers.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah.
And what you were talking about there with the iPad / the light version of the app is really the GarageBand and Logic Play. It's the same idea. It's started on something small and that's free or low cost, and you can graduate up to the big product when you're ready.
Mm-hmm. And it has the real guitar emulations in it. They're not cut down versions. They sound amazing and they port across. So it's a really interesting concept and something that you probably really have to see to appreciate. But it's interesting times. I think it's going to be really a good way forward.
Yeah,
I think it'll pull in customers that if you look, most of the folks that had a bit of a cow over this online were people like me, more synthesizer guys. This feels like it could have the potential of pulling in a whole new audience.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, look, Pete, we were having discussions and we were both saying, I don't know about this, And again, just going back to that conversation I had with Michael, one of my main concerns when they announced this was, my first question to Michael was, are you guys going to continue distributing this? Because if I had to deal with Fender Australia, I can tell you I would have been out. So I was very much relieved that they've left you guys to handle, and that's only because I've dealt with guitar reps, put it that way, right? I've dealt with with guitar reps before, and I just didn't want to kind of have to try and navigate music technology stuff with them. So very, very relieved.
There's a certain kind of person that becomes a guitar rep. It's unique out there.
Yeah, like I said, I've still got scars.
Yes.
Now, the other thing with Studio Pro is the design language. The GUI has had a major revision, and it's not like just a tweak. There's a design language that's probably come from Studio Pro. Would you agree with that, Chris? Or but it's definitely very different looking as far as the GUI.
Yeah, I think the new channel overview is really a good idea. It's something people have been asking for a long time. So very quick, easy access to what's going on your mixer. Yep. The mixer was also a little bit fiddly as far as opening and closing send windows, and I think they've greatly improved that.
Yep.
They're all positive improvements, and funnily enough, they're all the things that when people actually started using it, just went,
this is good.
This is actually pretty cool. I'm happy.
Yep.
And I think that's only going to get better. A lot of the plugins have also had GUI updates as well.
Yep.
Which they, to be honest, kind of badly needed, some of them. So overall, a lot of new features, but some good GUI overall. And I think they've made it uniform across the different platforms. So the Fender, the Studio on the light version on the iPads and the computers looks very much like the same version as the Pro. So you can very much quickly move between them.
What, a unified GUI?
Yeah,
what?
Unbelievable. Yeah,
I won't bring it up.
No, you better not.
Yeah. But yeah, I actually like the look of it. So I've got the new Studio Pro running on my new dev system, which is, like I said, 285K. So it's a big kahuna there.
Yeah. I'm recording in it right now.
Yeah, I haven't done any.
Pete, have you got your version, or I have to hook you up?
No, I need to get that. I haven't updated yet. Been too busy.
Yep. I haven't done any major testing with it yet. I mean, I've got apart from the thread management stuff, one of the things that was holding me up doing the virtual, because I've got the virtual instrument template about half done in Studio One. Studio was in Studio One, and what stopped me was there was a kind of a disconnect between the track inspector and the mixer mute stuff. I don't know if you're aware of that, but that's something that's a logistic thing that I need to kind of work through, and I'm hoping that they've fixed that one, because then I can just quickly port the virtual instrument test to Studio Pro as well.
Well, I think the new overview section will probably help you a lot, because you can quickly move between a lot of tracks.
Yeah, it's more that, for example, if you mute something on the mixer, it wasn't actually muting the part on the track. They're two separate mutes. It was very strange. So one would actually stop the audio, right? The mixer would actually stop the audio from playing back, but it wasn't stopping the part from playing. Where every other DAW mute is a mute. You know what I mean? We can discuss that a little bit further. I've been discussing that with Leon as well over the course, and he kind of gave me an explanation of why they did it that way. But I'm hoping that at least I've got my fingers crossed that that's actually been resolved, because that'd be nice. Look, apart from that, I think my mind has been changed, put it that way, Chris, right? So from my initial conversation with Michael and other conversations offline with Pete, I've actually changed my mind, and I'm kind of feeling better moving forward with that stuff. And I'm kind of wishing them all the best, because we need some good news in this fucking industry at the moment, mate. Yeah. Fucking hell.
It seems like, and the obvious parallel is Gibson and Cakewalk, but it seems like this is a completely different approach, and maybe this actually has some decent chance of success.
Yeah, I mean, Gibson was kind of that was a place where brands go to die. I mean, you think about it: Opcode, Cakewalk, Tascam, they killed every single one of the ones that went over there.
Yeah, but they lost their engineers. They walked out. The Cakewalk guys walked out. They didn't want to work there. So
they were locked out, mate.
Well, same sort of thing. But it's the people, and there was no way to keep that product developing. So that's a key part.
Yeah, no, of course. But I think it was the other way around. They decided to pull the plug and then lock the developers out of the room. They didn't even know until they went to try and log in or go into the office, and they were locked out.
Whatever it was an absolute mess.
Yeah, I don't think it's anything. I don't think there's any correlation between the two, which is a good thing.
Right.
And look, some of the other releases, Bitwig and Pro Tools, all of them have had kind of revision updates. There's.
I noticed you left one off the list.
Who's that, mate?
Wavelab 13 with the new Dolby Atmos mastering, which I know is your favorite topic.
Did you hear the crickets?
I did.
Sorry, Wavelab 13, which now has Atmos mixing.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't. Look, I've probably missed the whole stack of the others.
That's all right. It's worth a look.
Yeah. Look, the reason I focused on Cubase and Studio Pro was they've got a 12-month cycle. We can always get towards the end of the year. There's always
another
a jump.
Version, yeah,
there's always a jump there. I've started doing some work with Ableton. They kind of just go for a couple of years, those revisions. Reaper has 99, 80 to 100 revisions before they go from one version to the next. So, they could sometimes
Ableton jumps. I mean, there's always little updates to Ableton all the time, little improvements. Not major revisions, but I think that's kind of how they work.
Yeah. Well, it's the same, like I said, with Reaper. I mean, there was one version of Reaper that went to revision 99. So I think it was like 6.99 before it went to 7 or 5.99. There's just massive amounts of, releases there. Now, one thing I do want to talk about, I don't know if you guys are across it, but Solomoni, and I'm putting this under emerging tech, right? And this is not AI. So this one was really interesting to me. And I don't know whether you're across it, Pete and Chris. I did send some information over to Pete. It's a thing called Solomoni Tonalic. Did you get across that product at all, Chris?
No.
Pete, did you actually read or watch any of those things that I sent you?
No, I was busy fixing bugs.
Thanks, mate. Okay, so Solomoni, obviously, that's with what's their main
Malandine.
Malandine, right? That kind of shifted a lot of dots when Malandine came out, right? So this Tonalic thing, and look it up if you can really quickly. So I'm still trying to get my head around it. I'm thinking it's AI. Initial thing was AI to go, no, it's not AI, right? So it's this algorithmic thing where they've got these live players that have played hours and hours of live performances.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I remember.
So they've got, live players, hours and hours and hours of live performances that somehow you put into your session and it actually does an analysis and then it applies like a riff. Right? I'm thinking, well, how can that be not AI? So the tonality thing is very, very clever. I wasn't huge on the range and selection, but that's actually going to grow, obviously. Now you actually got it, Chris. You've got one, whether you know it or not, because there's a cut down freebie version that is in Studio Pro.
Okay.
And he's going, is it? Yep.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is no AI in the same way that movies are like, no CG, but it's really, there's plenty of CG. I
don't know, Pete. I watched the videos and it was kind of cool the way they were moving stuff around. It was almost like it was almost like ceremony, kind of, and you can move riffs around and notes in the riff but it was doing some analysis stuff and it was actually kind of cool. It's not covering enough genres for my liking at the moment. The biggest pushback that I was kind of reading on it was it's a subscription model, and everyone's going, fuck, really, right? But Fender have actually hooked up because it's very guitar focused, right? The primary release is very guitar bass focused, so perfect fit for the Studio Pro rebranding, right? And so there's a small version in there, so that I'm going to have a bit of a play in Studio Pro. So that one was really interesting.
So the subscription thing, Vin, if that enables them to pay the actual musicians to continue to generate content, I think that's a really good story.
Yeah. But I think people were just saying, well, just give us a perpetual license and then we can do an update. But you can't. You've got to have a subscription license. And the other thing as well is that it needs to be online. That was the other thing that I was reading in between the dots, was that it needs to be online so that when it does an analysis of what you're trying to do and then it's bringing stuff in. So if you want to kind of like dial in a new riff, you got to be online to actually scan through the new riffs and stuff.
Right.
I don't know. That's another watch this space because I haven't got my head quite around it. But, they're very clear saying this is not AI. I'm going, okay. So then we're going to move to the next one, right? And I don't really want to spend too much time on the whole AI because the circus just continues, right? And it's getting better and better and it's getting even scarier and scarier, right? Especially for artists and stuff, all of the AI artists that are actually just appearing everywhere. But I want to focus more on the AI in the creative space, right?
Yeah.
And there wasn't, a lot of it in stem separation and all of that type of stuff. And I think Logic has brought in some AI agents, whatever, players and that type of stuff.
Yep. And most people don't realize it, but most DAWs have AI doing something in them right now. So
Yeah. Look, if it's anything to do with the stem separation or the noise reduction stuff and any of that type of stuff, because as you know, I use a machine learning AI plugins all the time to clean up the podcast recordings. And so I actually like that aspect of it. But this one, you probably didn't get a chance to look at it, Pete. I hope you did.
So I actually knew about this beforehand anyway.
The Ace Studio?
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris, do you know about that one?
I've heard of this, yes.
What a ridiculous name.
I have a more ridiculous one for later.
Yeah, Ace Studio. Now, it kind of went under the radar for me until I watched a video of one of the content creators, and he's just sitting there kind of going, he goes, oh, look, I'll just play a really rough, loose saxophone line on a synth part.
Yeah, the Dr. Mix video.
What the fuck? And then it just grabbed it and went, okay, here's a real saxophone. I went, okay, now we're in trouble, right?
Yeah.
And then they just expanded it to like a full band, like a big band arrangement. I went, oh, we're fucked. Well, I was literally going, we are fucked. That was incredible. And then he played that Italian, because from Italian descent. Then he played that Italian folk riff. It's called a tarantella, right? So he played a tarantella riff, and then he not only did they fix it, he's played it with the saxophone, but then he did kind of two different He did a techno and he did the trance version of it.
Yeah, he did the techno version or whatever afterwards.
I've gone, okay. So to me, what it feels like is it's kind of like Suno, right? The technology that's behind Suno, where it does an analysis and then it actually creates some stuff in the background. But it's actually now in a DAW environment. So, oh boy,
with a key difference.
Yeah,
right. And that's why I'm personally okay with this. Is if they've done what they've said they've done, the musicians that this is trained off of have been compensated, and it's all been ethical from the beginning.
Yes.
My issue with AI stuff before was always you're building on the backs of a bunch of people who had no say in whether or not they would be included. So this is just like modern audio accompaniment kind of stuff.
At a scary level.
Yeah, it's scary good. I mean, you expect things to improve over time, but the fact that it's been trained on these musicians that are being, if again this is true, they're fairly compensated. Yeah, I'm okay with it. Like if it helps somebody be creative, great.
Yeah. Well, I mean that has to be a space that has to evolve into. Yes, we've got to live with the robots, right? And not just throw everyone under the bus. So I'll be watching that one. That one kind of. And I was saying to a close friend of mine, I've gone. Part of me hates it, but a part of me goes, "Fuck, this could help me. This could help me finish my songs."
Well, like around 2 years ago, I think it was around 2 years ago, Jordan Rudess did some videos online with this brilliant student from MIT.
Yes, I saw them. Yeah.
Where you remember that he was doing stuff, but it trained only on Jordan's playing, and then it would jam with him while he was doing it. Yeah. This is kind of that plus, like maybe, you're not Jordan Rudess, but you can pull in these other folks that kind of are. Yeah.
I mean, look, that Dr. Mix video that's the one that will get a few people going, oh, okay. Because, I mean, he could obviously play the keyboards, but what he was playing was all out of time, and he didn't even do it to a click and everything else, and they just analysed it and pulled it all in. So,
yeah.
I think Lander were also showing something at NAMM that they had a studio product that was pretty much the same.
Ah, okay.
And it was what Pete was saying. They had a whole lot of musicians that have been sitting there playing into it, and they all apparently get fairly compensated as well. I think it's called Lander Studio, very similar.
Right.
Standalone though, it's not in the DAW.
Yeah.
But another, you just add a guitar track to whatever you're working on. There's a lot of this kind of going on. Google had some similar stuff playing as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you get a couple of minutes, Chris, watch that Dr. Mix one, and you'll go, yeah, okay, I know where this is heading.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see this coming as like the death of music. Like a lot of stuff is all not even AI, but it's being cleaned up to the point where you're not really hearing, at least in a lot of pop music, you're not really hearing the musicians anyway.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know. This is going to pollute the space a bit with some things, but we'd already gone down that road, and we'll just have to prioritize the ones where we know everybody's actually playing in a way that we want to support.
It's a little bit like sample libraries, though, isn't it? Like at some point, everyone's going to start to sound the same, and that's not what you're really going to want. So that's going to be interesting to see how it adopts to that.
Yep.
Well, look, it's not going away, and we've already discussed that there's going to be more and more AI integration into the DAW. So Logic has, some players. It's got player agents, and I don't know whether they're good, bad, or indifferent. I don't particularly care because I don't, I'm nowhere near a Logic.
I still think, Vin, this is really good for, again, you're trying to think of these folks that don't like, I can't construct a rhythm worth shit. I'm absolutely horrible at anything drums and rhythm related. Like being able to have somebody or something that can work with me. I also don't want to deal with a whole bunch of other people to fill in that gap, like would help me. Like it's not like gonna create a finished track necessarily, but it would help me have fun and be creative.
Yeah.
And I think that's really great.
It's going to start you off.
Yeah. And like I noted before, I just said as much as, part of me hated it, a part of me just went, fuck, this could help me finish some stuff off. So it's another one to watch. And I think I'll be very surprised that all of the major DAWs do not implement, some level of this stuff moving forward. Not all of them, but most of them.
You need to pump your infected Vin track into it and see what happens.
God. First thing he'll do is remove half of the bloody arpeggiated parts. Yeah, too busy. Let's just break this down into a 10-minute side track, with a build up.
Give us this track in the style of Australian Italo disco.
It's not disco. Don't say disco, mate. It's not disco.
That'll throw it in a different direction.
Yeah.
The other one that I saw at NAMM as well was Google's DeepMind environment, which is a funny name because it has photo and video tools, but it also has an audio tool now that is a VST plugin, and it works on the same sort of basis. You sort of say, I want a rhythm that is possibly rock with a little bit of Latin in it, and I want a sax, and it starts creating all these tracks for you with volume sliders, and you basically type into it what you want, and it starts doing stuff for you. But the VST plugin, which I downloaded to have a play with, only works in Ableton and Logic. And I went, how is that possible? VST container's a VST container.
Yeah.
No, you drag the VST in any other DAW right now and it doesn't work. The standalone version's pretty interesting, but again, it's one of those things where you go, this kind of can start me off. This can kind of, it's got an interesting development where it's going. But even when I was looking at the Google one going, well, you guys have obviously decided that a VST plugin's what's required, which is an interesting pathway for a company like Google to go down.
I didn't know about the Google one, but
have a look at DeepMind, and it's very beta. The actual plugin installer is not an installer. You literally get the .vst3 file that you've got to throw. Yeah, you got to throw it into your plugin folder.
But how could they possibly lock it out of the other DAWs? I don't understand.
Yeah, that's weird.
Excellent question. And then the other thing is, what's the latency like? Because again, like you said, it's got to go off and grab stuff from the net. But it is early stages. They do say it's early stages, but it's worth having a bit of a look at. It's quite interesting.
Yeah.
But I hope that we do differentiate this from the stuff that like Ace Studio is doing though, because Google's just sucked in all the data from everybody without permission to pull into this crap. And that's sort of the tech bro music industry perspective. I don't want to support that.
Yeah. There'll be an ethical question mark over where it's pulling stuff from. So, but it is all interesting. I didn't know about the Google one, and probably because I saw DeepMind, and you know what I thought it was?
Yeah, the Behringer synth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was too.
And I just kept fucking scrolling and going, DeepMind, I don't give a shit about another DeepMind.
Which is not a bad synth once you spend about 50 years trying to work out how to operate it. But
sorry, what was that? Hey, what?
Hey, it's actually, the DeepMind's not a bad synth.
Yeah, sure.
It is.
Yeah, if you've actually got a brain, Vin, and you know how to operate it, it's actually a pretty decent synthesizer.
Yeah, thanks,
it's very deep.
Yeah, you need a deep mind. Listen,
you do.
It's got a shitty screen and horrible faders, but it sounds good.
Yeah, and the faders will probably fall apart. Now, listen, as you know, Pete, and Chris doesn't know this, but I managed to.
I've replaced many faders in my time.
Well, I've had an old Nord gifted to me that was not operating.
Oh, right.
And so it's an old original Nord 1 module. Chris, remember those, right?
Yes.
1995. But this one's got the 12 voice. It's got a 12 voice expansion. It's beautiful, right?
Wow, is it that old, Vin?
Yeah, it's 30 years old. Yeah.
Oh, damn.
So I had to repair it, but it's up and running. And I was having a bit of a play. And I remember, because I was one of the I was the first dealer in Australia to actually support the Nord back in the mid-90s, because the distributor was originally a drum guy, right? So all of a sudden he's landing at these pro audio places, the MI places, going, hey, I got this synth. I'm like, what the hell is this red thing with a weird little wooden thing on the bend and the bend knob and stuff, right? The bend
I love that your first reaction to all new technology is, what the hell is this thing?
What the hell is this thing? Well, 1995, I'm going, this red thing comes in, and I've gone, what the hell is this? And he's going, well, is that analog? And they're going, no, it's modeled. I'm going, oh, what? But here's the interesting thing for me, because I've got a snapshot of that in from 1995, through the 90s. And I remember how cool I thought this thing sounded, this is analog, but it's digital.
And you were right.
It still does sound good. But, here I am 30 years on, and I've got the headphones on, and I'm thinking, and I'm hearing all the zipping you know, when I'm bloody changing the filter and resonance and stuff, and I know the stepping, right? I've gone, yeah, it wasn't that
Vintage stepping now, Vin.
vintage stepping.
Pay a lot of money for that now.
Yeah.
Oh, well, good. Well, anyway, that's in pride and place now, and I gave it a good clean. Hadn't probably been cleaned in 30 years, so you can imagine how much residue.
The software for it still work? I seem to recall that.
100%. Yeah, and it's the expanded one as well. So it's 12 voice. You know, so there you go.
Well, wasn't there something you had to install on the computer to set up the patches and stuff?
No, that's the modular one, man. That's modular. That was the modular.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the modular. That came later. So this is just the original Nord lead one, you know. And I've got the latest software in there. It's very, very nice. So 30 years old, and it's still cranking away. I don't know whether DeepMind will last 30 years, Chris, just between you and me, because I've heard some reports that the thing's fallen apart after 12 months, you know. So, you know.
Yeah.
I doubt it's going to make 30 years.
I've got a fun fact story from 30 years ago.
Go.
Speaking of synth modules.
Yeah.
The very first synth module that I ever bought, I think, was a Korg 05RW.
Oh, God.
And do you remember who and where I bought that from?
Me.
Correct?
You bought that from me.
I walked into the store that you were being a gun salesman at, and that was my first purchase.
Yeah, apologies.
That's all right. No, you were actually quite nice.
I was.
Yeah.
I was. I'm just saying apologies for the 05R. You know, that's
no, at the time, it was a killer.
It was a great little box. Yeah.
Don't have it anymore, of course, but that's okay.
Oh, mate, let's not talk about synthesizers that we've let slip.
No, that's a whole different podcast.
Yeah, that's a whole different podcast.
So my first module was a Roland MT32.
You still have it?
No, I did eventually. It's one of just a couple things I've sold over time.
That's the same.
Time for that TR1000.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need to clear a bed-sized area on my desk to fit that thing.
Yeah.
In an extension.
Is it really that big?
It's pretty big, yeah. It's cool, but it sounds amazing.
Back to the old days. All right. Oh, very, very cool. Hey, let's move on to some of the computer tech stuff. Good old platform CPU wars. I'll just kind of cover this reasonably quickly. So Apple have got the M4 and M5. So there's just the continuing and progressive improvements on the M series chips. And, you know, there's some x86 and ARM stuff that's incoming, which is kind of interesting. So one thing that I did pick up on, I've been picking up reports on the M4, on the Macs, M4 Macs, that apparently they're running really, really hot and they're actually starting to throttle. So the whole thing about these things, you're not pulling any power and you know, run really cool and you won't hear the fans. That is not the reports I've been getting back. It's probably specifically maybe the M4 Max, right? But apparently it's running really, really hot and it's tipping over the 100-degree stuff, and then all of a sudden it starts throttling and the fans are going crazy. And I'm going, well, is the honeymoon over with those, especially with those kind of larger core? And that's not necessarily larger. I think that's about a 16-core chip. Imagine the 28-core. That's why you're not seeing those big monster ultra cores in the M4s and the M5s, right? Is I think that they're hitting some limits.
Well, you're not seeing them in the laptop.
No, but you're not even seeing them in the Mac Pros and the Mac Studios. There's only an M3 Ultra, Chris. There's no M4 Ultra, right? There's an M4 Max. They're stopping at that core count, and the only Ultras are actually M3s, right? So those larger core M chips are being limited to a core count below 20 cores, right? Which is kind of interesting.
I mean, everything hits its, max thermal envelope eventually, right? So
yeah. But that's an interesting one to watch, right? Because as you know, Pete, we are both all over the competitor on the Windows side with the Windows on ARM, and that's with the Qualcomm who have now released the. I'm having a break.
Snapdragon X2
Snapdragon X2.
Oh, I had a question for Pete on that. I actually I bought one.
The new X2 stuff?
Oh, no, I don't think it's a very new one. It's probably the one before then. But I was going to ask you,
Yep.
What kind of work goes into Microsoft and Windows as far as going, there's some new hardware here that we need to develop Windows for? Is it just like a bottom layer kind of thing where everything works on top of it and it's just talking to that new chipset? How much work goes into that?
There's quite a bit of driver work that goes into it with the company. Like all of the chipset drivers and like their USB support and, how that works, that's something that we have to work with, in this case, Qualcomm. So the ton of work goes there. And then for apps on top of it, it's part of what my team does is like reaching out to the app developers and trying to get them to port their applications over to ARM64. And then how difficult that is depends upon, like what their dependencies are and what instruction sets they use and stuff. And then when each version of these chipsets come out and it has new accelerator instructions or something like that, then we have to update compilers and a bunch of other things to use those. So there is actually quite a bit of work, but the core of Windows stays the same. But there's a bunch of kernel stuff and drivers that has to change.
Well, I found it very snappy and very solid. I've been actually pretty impressed.
Yep. Now, there are some tricks with the power management modes with that, which I'll discuss with you later, that myself and Pete discovered very, very early on, that if you don't set these correctly, that you are going to be running into problems with the DAW performance stuff and the thread management. But I'll talk to you a little bit later about that one.
Chris, all the demos I was doing at the NAMM show, like all those PCs that were on the table were all those original Snapdragon PCs. And they were all running all this stuff. They had version of Cubase running on it and everything else. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've got 5 DAWs running on my Snapdragon X dev laptop, and the whole, and this is one thing that I missed before with the DAWbench stuff, apart from the actual sessions and the testing, is that I've got a low latency performance base specifically now for the Windows on ARM stuff.
Excellent.
And so that's, I've already written reports, and that's a completely different test regimen, but I'm having fun with those. And we discovered that, what was it? Audient. I had no idea. Well, Audient had a native driver for ARM. The announcement had kind of just been buried.
Yeah.
And Pete was saying, I think it's only on this particular interface. And I took a chance and I bought one of the little Evo ones. And sure enough, it works. And you know what the interesting thing there is, and again, I don't want to get too sidetracked, but the interesting there is that that's actually a Thesicon driver, right? And so Thesicon actually has a native ARM driver, which means that opens it up to everyone else, including, Chris, Fender.
Yes.
Right? So maybe that's a discussion we can have offline. But that if it's there, we really should kind of maybe get a whisper into an ear, see if we can get some drivers for especially for the new Fender interfaces across the Windows on ARM.
There's been a couple other releases that snuck up as well. Motu released native ARM drivers for their top-of-line USB interfaces in December.
I was in contact with those guys. They were supposed to give me a heads up, and they didn't. Damn it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been in contact with them too, and that one snuck past me. But they've, so they released those. And then our friends at RME actually released native ARM drivers for the PCIe, like the MIDI effects and stuff, with like the idea that you'd run these in like a USB 3 Thunderbolt 3 or USB 4 PCIe control enclosure.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. That's good. Well, you and I both know that, and Chris should go read my report, that the drivers on Windows on ARM, even though the reference interface for the low latency performance database section is actually an RME, it's actually the MIDI-face driver, right?
Yep.
But the overall best performing driver across all of the benchmark was actually the Yamaha driver, Pete.
Is actually what? Sorry?
It was the Yamaha driver. Right?
Oh, the Yamaha driver.
Yeah, the Yamaha driver on the Steinberg interfaces. RME's having trouble running my virtual instrument test at 64. So that's something that I'm sure will be addressed. But at the moment, my default test interface is actually the Yamaha / Steinberg driver. Well, it's actually the Yamaha driver, right? And which holds it in good stead because that's what the in-house is based on. So yeah.
Yep, Yamaha's working on that.
Yep.
And also, I don't remember if we covered it last time if that happened, but there are no more Steinberg interfaces too. They finally just decided to brand it all Yamaha.
Yeah.
It was all built by them anyway.
Yep. So that's another one. Yeah, that was another shift.
That's a logical one though, that one, isn't it really?
Yeah. And they've released some new desktop ones as well. But the driver is actually very, very good. But as I've discussed with Pete, is that the actual delivered performance can vary depending on the controller that's being used. But that's going deeper than I want to go today, and that's a discussion that I can have with Pete and perhaps, hopefully, Yamaha at some point once we get into that last driver development stuff. So let's just quickly swing it back. So yeah, the Qualcomm X2 up to 18 cores now, and apparently the performance is through the roof.
And it's affordable.
Yeah, it's actually getting more. So the 12 cores, yeah. Well, now all of a sudden we got laptops up around that $1,200 to $1,500. That was not the case before, right? I don't know how much you paid for yours, Chris. You've probably got a nicer one, but so you've got the X. Have you got the X Elite? Is it the
X Elite? That's right. That's what it says.
Yeah, so it's the same as mine. Yeah. They're great. 12 cores.
Good battery life. It's pretty good.
Oh,
pretty
it's
happy with it.
Ridiculous battery life. Yeah, I really like mine. So the other thing that's kind of incoming, NVIDIA N1X. Have you been picking up anything on that, Chris? I know Pete is across it because I keep feeding him information on it. Do you know about that one?
No. Enlighten me.
Okay, so here the initial rumors were that the NVIDIA have a laptop chip that was incoming before Christmas last year, right? And so the N1X is 20 ARM cores, and there's an RTX of some description sitting on this chip, right? So a system on a chip, and it was going up against the Qualcomm chips, right? Now, this is actually based on, I can't remember what it's based on the original Grace Hopper, which is their big monster AI chip, right? And Grace Hopper had like 72 cores and then this monster RTX. This is a stripped down version. They released a little kind of mini PC version of this thing. It's supposed to be an AI. It was an AI supercomputer. It's exactly, from my understanding, is exactly the same chip that is now going into these laptops. Now, they missed the mark on the release for 2025, and then the announcement was kind of that it should be coming Q1 this year, but it is definitely coming, right? So this is a competitor directly against the Qualcomm and the Apple M series.
Silicon, yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting one, Chris, because Qualcomm has obviously responded. They knew this thing was coming, and it's got 20 cores, right? So who knows where it lands? It could be even higher than 20 cores, but we're talking it's got an RTX sitting on the thing, right?
Yeah.
So this thing could shake a few trees, mate.
It's still a shame that a lot of doors are not really taking use of the additional graphic cores on silicon, or possibly this as well, because obviously the real-time processing gets in the way, but it's going to get interesting when that starts to happen.
I don't think it will, just personally.
You don't think it will?
No.
I think it will.
No, I don't think it will. And I'll give you my reasoning. Remember, there was a company that was pushing really hard with GPU accelerations, right? And for audio stuff a couple of years ago. And I was getting right into it going, this thing is going to be huge. And then it just didn't really go anywhere. And they're still kind of pushing this stuff. I'm not going to name the company because I don't think it's actually going to get embraced. And it hasn't really gone anywhere. And I think it's to do with more the logistics of actually the different GPU cores, right, and whether they can actually manage the real-time latency of the stuff. I think if there's going to be some DSP accelerated stuff on CPUs, it's going to be on the NPU.
Mm-hmm.
That's my feeling, that if it's going to go anywhere, it's going to go in the NPU. And I'm trying to think, there was something. Hang on, help me out, Pete. There was someone that's done something that the real time stem separation stuff was running on the NPU, and I can't remember who it was now. Remember who it was?
Yeah, DJ Pro was doing that.
Right. Okay. So that's where I think it's heading, Pete, Chris. I think it's actually heading more so on the NPU.
I don't know. I still reckon there's something there, I've got to say. I mean, because in video world, when we're still trying to do a lot of real-time stuff, it can happen in the background without affecting you.
Yeah.
You don't touch 24 tracks at once trying to make changes to them in a DAW.
Yep.
I feel like it's very untouched.
Yeah, and so my main PC here is, regular 285K, and I've got a pretty beefy NVIDIA GPU in it. And
which GPU you got?
I think I'm one generation back. I've got like a 4090.
Well, mate, you could probably sell that and buy a new car.
Yeah,
At the moment, you can.
At the current pricing,
No, it's to build his extension to put these extra synths in.
Yeah, that would work. So I can finally fit that drum machine.
Yeah.
If I sell it for enough, I can also buy the MPC.
Yeah.
A lot of AI stuff is optimized for running on NVIDIA GPUs. Like pretty much all the AI stuff that I've used here for one thing or another, it all runs on the GPU. So, I mean, there's that type of thing.
Potential.
And then there's also just the fact that if you take like Cubase, they're using DirectX for all their UI rendering and stuff. And
DirectX.
Yeah, so if you use
What's a blast?
So that's
from
all
the past.
GPU accelerated.
Oh, God.
Sorry, Chris.
That's a blast from the past. DirectX.
Hang on. Did we just fall through a time warp and go back to 1998? Fucking DirectX.
No, it's still what games render down to. It's what the Windows UI renders down on, a bunch of other stuff. But
hang on. Is that the thing that's hitting that single call every time you scroll across?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Depends on how they do it.
Yeah.
But it would naturally accelerate on that stuff. Like as you get like really high resolution screens, you'll see performance differences there versus straight up like a onboard GPU on a processor.
Right. Okay. I don't know. I was very, very optimistic about 4 or 5 years ago. Right? When we first started this podcast, I was very optimistic about that whole GPU, and then it just didn't. Everything just kind of went and it didn't really eventuate.
You know what I've seen in this industry a lot, Vin, is like somebody will come out with like really cool tech like that, and then everybody else is like, we're doing well enough the way we are right now.
Yeah.
Like even a lot of the AI that's in DAWs right now, and I've talked to them about accelerating on NPUs and stuff, and they're like, it's running fine on the CPU for now. It's like, but you could do better. It's like not worth the investment.
Yeah. What is it? The cart before the horse, or catch 22 type of thing. So, yeah.
It does feel different though, because the previous technology was based on external PCI graphics card. A lot of what we're talking about is built directly into the. We'll see.
Yep.
Early days. Hey.
Yeah. Well, the onboard GPUs is just getting more and more powerful. The next gen Intel one is pretty crazy, and AMD have got a good one as well, obviously, and Apple have got some crazy onboard GPU horsepower, as you know, Chris.
Yeah.
So
Not being used, not indoors anyway.
Okay. So, look, I'm more than happy to say, I was wrong, right? I don't see it happening on the third party dedicated GPUs, but you're right. With the internal ones becoming more and more powerful, but I still reckon the NPU is just staring at everyone. Yeah. So just real quickly, with the Intel, since the last time we spoke, Intel 285K came out. Myself and Pete, headlong into those machines.
I'm so glad I bought my memory before all this crap happened.
Oh, God. I wasn't going to go there. But
come on, Chris has got his rent buzzer. He's just waiting for you.
Fuck.
No, don't go there. It's not coming down though, is it? This is the other thing. It's tanking.
Yeah. So I'll say only a couple of sentences on it, right? And I'm going to stay very, very calm because he's hovering over that rant button. I know it. So just to put this into perspective for the people that haven't been following super closely. So if I was building some last couple of large client machines that I was building in kind of November, December last year, right? And I had some kind of pre-orders, and we were going into October. So it was, let's just say mid-October, mid to third week of October, the cost of 128 gigabyte of DDR5 here in Australia, Chris, was $800. That's what I was buying for. That's about my costing, right? $800, right? By the time we got to the first week of December, and I had two machines that were 2 weeks apart, and I'm panicking with the second guy going, this is going to sound like a car salesman. We need to buy the memory now, right? He's going, well, what's going on? I went, well, it had gone up. By the time I'd actually ordered the memory for the client, and it was only a space of a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, right? It had gone up from $800 to $1,300. Right?
Wow.
That was on, let's say it's a Friday. By the Monday, that was $1,700, right? Now, hang on. And this is November, right? By mid-November, it was $2,500. Then it settled. Then it settled just under $2,700, and it's gone. Oh, it's stabilized. Fucking stabilized. That's
after it's gone off the cliff.
That's 3 times, so 200% increase. Now, could you imagine applying that to any other industry? It just wouldn't work, right? So I'm like, I'm fucking screwed here. What am I going to do here, right? So I had to redo all of my system pricing. I was changing it almost daily. It was just so insane as leading up to that. Then it finally stabilized. I redid my pricing. So the base system pricing went up $400 to $600. This is my base system. If you wanted to go from 32 to 64 gigabyte of RAM previously, it was about $250, $300. Now it's $1,000. That's unheard of, right? Wait for this. So I kind of took my foot off the pedal in mid-January and went, okay, it's stabilized. And I wasn't paying that much attention. I was just watching some of the memory stuff. But I'm reading the report saying, don't get too comfortable. There's rumors of memory going up another 50%. I'm going, fuck off. I just can't, right? Yep. That memory is now $3,000, Chris. Right.
Yeah.
And what I hadn't been paying attention to was the storage. The NVMe and SSD prices were edging up to the point where I had to put the base price up another $400. Right.
Yeah.
That's
crazy.
That's like $900. So my big system is a $900 base price increase. And if those clients that bought the machines with 128 gigabyte of RAM, as of today, it would cost them, just the extra RAM would cost them an extra $2,200. So I'm dead in the water. I'm dead in the water at the moment.
Somebody's getting rich off that.
Well, no, I'm getting screwed. But, I mean, it's not, I'm only small fish. Could you imagine being the major computer manufacturers trying to lock in long-term memory deals?
Yeah, everyone's down to 16 gig.
Well, I actually moved my two of my machines back to 16, but it's still ridiculous, Anyway, I didn't want to go there, but that's just to give people the over. And I actually remain very, very calm with that because I almost wanted to punch a screen just even talking about it. So yeah, that's the environment at the moment. And like you said, Chris, they're projecting that these prices, unless the bubble goes boom, I'm fucking hoping it does, right? All the way through to 2027, possibly 2028. Mate, my business is done. I'm going to retire. I have to. I can't sustain this. But we'll see how we go. I'm trying to be optimistic. Okay, so there's not really a lot that's happened as far as x86, right? So the 285K, me and Pete have had them for about a year, over a year. There's a refresh. Refresh from 285K to a 290, and we've got an extra 300 megahertz. That's it, right? So the Intel are just, I don't know, they're shuffling the deck chairs. AMD has done pretty much the same. They've released a new 3D version of the baby, right? The 9800 X3D. Now they call it 9850 X3D. And they get this, right? The power and the temperatures have gone up 20, 30% for an extra 200 megahertz. I'm going, yeah, you can keep that, right? So I think we're starting to hit those limits, guys, as we were mentioning before. Not much else really. Intel got a new Panther Lake mobile, but I'm well away from x86 mobile at the moment. I couldn't care less. I'm focused more on the ARM stuff, and the Threadripper and Xeons are kind of up there. The Threadrippers, we've got 24 to 64 core. The new Xeons that have just come out are 12 to 86 core. These are HEDT, not the big servers, right? They're great. Except when I did, that real world testing and scaling, we weren't being able to leverage the extra cores. So that is not something that the vast majority of DAW end users are going to be really interested in. I can't see it. You can't justify the money because those CPUs are just ghastly expensive. And now with the memory, and storage, I think they might be reserved to enterprise or whoever.
Good for people doing 3D rendering and stuff where a whole lot of parallel processes, but musicians not so much.
If you want to pay $3,000 to $6,000 for memory,
Oh yeah. That's like going back to silicon like SGI prices on these workstations.
Because I've built some machines with 256 gigabyte of RAM in the past. That memory would now place it at $6,000. Could you just imagine? It's just like,
easy.
Fucking crazy.
I've got 192 in this, and I'm glad I bought it when I did.
Yeah, you got $4,500 worth of bloody memory sitting in that machine, Pete. You should sell it. The only problem is you got to rebuy it. Yeah. Didn't you have a spare memory kit?
I think I do actually, and I'm like, I wonder if because I have 64 gigs hanging around here somewhere.
Mate, that's like, you know what, a 64 gigabyte memory kit in Australian dollars at the moment is $1,800 up from whatever it was, $400 or $500.
Yeah, almost get the drum machine.
There you go. Fantastic. Now, I'm going to run this past you, Pete, and I just kind of feel that, and look, I might be wrong, but there's a bit of a lull in that, a bit of a stall in the momentum for the Windows on ARM. Am I kind of reading this right, or do you think?
No, we had the initial burst of stuff, which got a lot of attention.
Yeah.
And if you think that the X2 was just announced in September.
Yeah.
We got we have almost all the DAWs in place now. Like Ableton Live is going to come later this year.
Ableton's about to come, yeah. There's this quarter, apparently.
We got just about every other one.
Yeah.
All the major audio interface manufacturers.
Yes.
So it's kind of like we've gotten all the really hard work done up front. Oh, and I should mention for apps that are emulated, we added AVX2 emulation support back in December.
Oh.
So those apps will be much faster if they're using acceleration, like the vector instruction sets and stuff.
Okay.
Still waiting so FL Studio and Multitrack Studio are still waiting on Embarcadero to add the ARM64 targets to their compiler, their Delphi compiler, but that's going to be coming as well. So yeah, I mean, we've done most of the ones that we can do, and I think we're actually in pretty good shape. The thing that you're maybe feeling is stalled a bit is plugins.
Yes, 100%.
And that's because Pace is still working on iLock native for ARM64. And once that comes, then the plugin manufacturers can actually port over, but right now they're kind of stuck.
Yeah, but it's not only the guys with Pace, it's even, a lot of these. What I'm finding, even that, and we have had this discussion before, but we can cover it again real quickly, is that even just the installers themselves, they either don't run or they don't place the plugins in the correct directories and stuff, or they'll say, well, what's this? This is not compatible with this operating system.
Right.
But if I grab the DLLs from a working x86 system and go straight to the VST3 directory, and I grab those DLLs and then copy them into the common folder on the Windows on ARM, guess what? They work.
Yeah.
And the only one out of this whole DAWbench 2026 development, the only plugin that did not work after I had to arm wrestle a couple on, obviously, as you know, but the only one that didn't work was one of the reverbs, the Magic 7, I think it was, and it appeared and it was processing, but it wasn't outputting. And I've gone, well, that's kind of weird, all right?
A lot of these companies are really looking to see what the big folks do, and a lot of the big folks are blocked on iLock, so.
Yeah, I think it's the I was saying cart before the horse. It's not, it's the chicken and egg. It was the chick. That was what I was looking for before. It's the whole chicken and egg thing again. It'd be nice if we start getting some of these majors to actually just port natively. Remember, I was holding out for Native Instruments. I'm going to be great if Native Instruments
hop on my list, but now I'm like, oh shit.
Well, we're going to have to wait to see who the new owners are. So that'll be good. But I'm still very optimistic with the ARM area.
Yeah.
Anyone that comes to visit. Friend and clients that have come into my space and they see the laptop, they're going, well, what's that? And I've gone, let me show you. And they've gone, what the? I've gone, they're going, well, you're going to start selling these? I've gone, not yet, So, Chris, what have you got? You got a Lenovo one.
Yeah.
Is it touchscreen as well? Is it
Yes.
nice? Yeah, beautiful.
Just from Officeworks, it's about $1,500.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, but there are some little tweaks which I'll tell you. I'll just drop it into an email to you. So this is the stuff that, like I said, myself and Pete discovered very, very early on when I started belting the shit out of it. But even just grab the DAWbench stuff. It's easily accessible now, Chris. If you want to throw some stuff at it. So that's about it with the computer stuff. It's kind of almost. It has kind of stalled a little bit, I think, with new releases.
I think we'll wait to see with the Snapdragon X2 as those machines really start hitting. Yeah, like that'll be your next burst of momentum there.
Yeah. Well, I've seen some numbers, and they're going up against the M4 and M5s. So
yeah,
that would be causing some ripples. I think when we see this N1X. That's the NVIDIA one. That's going to be the one that's going to put the cat amongst the pigeons. I don't reckon NVIDIA are going to release it unless it's kicking the competition's ass. So I think just as a gut feel, I think that's why they kind of held off. I did read some reports that they weren't 100% happy with the performance of it. So who knows? It's a 20 core. Maybe they'll go, I don't know. They could go wherever they want, I suppose, Yes, that'll be one to watch. I think we're getting towards the end, guys, believe it or not. And the rant button hasn't come out, so I'm very proud of myself. And I'm kind of disappointed at the same time. But there you go. Chris, in the trenches, is there anything, and I'm trying to think.
I've got a quick one.
Yeah.
I was at a conference. It was just a marketing talk thing, probably a few months back now. And it was about 10 minutes before it was starting. And I hear a clicking noise, in the PA. And I went, I know that clicking noise. I've heard that before.
Clock, yeah.
Yeah. So I looked at the back and there was a PreSonus mixer there. And I knew exactly what the clicking noise was. It was they didn't update their firmware on their stage box.
Right.
Something I've done many times before. Turned around, massive panic, went out the car, grabbed my laptop. Boys, I know how to fix this. What are you? Go away. You're not touching anything. I go, seriously? I know how to fix this. All right, well, we're screwed. I said, well, you are screwed because you can't do this with a clicking noise. So there I was. I updated the stage box in all of about 5 minutes.
On the fly?
On the fly. Literally 5 minutes before this thing started. I got it finished about 3 minutes before it started. Saved the day. Very happy with myself. Went back and sat down. And those pricks didn't even say thank you.
Yeah, I was about to say that would have been absolutely shit and bricks, right?
Yeah.
And then here you are, you've actually fixed it. Oh, hang on, we better not acknowledge that because then we don't look as cool. Yeah,
I think they were in shock. I think it was about to be cancelled because it was just, I don't think they had anything else. And I just went back and sat down and that was the end of that. And I thought, oh, well, it's okay. Happy to help.
Yeah. I had, for a change, I don't actually have any kind of really crazy product support stuff, I suppose.
I've got to say, it's been a bit light on. I've noticed the last sort of 12 months I haven't really taken as many problematic computer problems as normal, with software and drivers, both platforms, because we'd get them for both platforms. There's not one that's particularly worse than the other.
Yeah.
It's been pretty quiet.
Yeah. I don't have any kind of crazy, client stories or anything, to tell you the truth. I mean, I found kind of various kind of quirks and stuff in plugins and DAWs and stuff, but nothing really. I mean, I didn't advocate a really crazy hardware thing with my platform, the Z890 platform, which I won't go into I'll actually explain that later. It was absolutely crazy. No one could actually resolve it. So in the end, I had to actually swap motherboard vendors because no one could actually resolve this for me. Pete knows exactly what I'm talking about.
That's the one that I was looking at all the logs for, right? Or no?
No, that was even kind of wackier, but it just happens to be the same motherboard, didn't it? As soon as I swapped it, it all kind of went magically away. But there was, and I'll explain it real quick, Chris. There was a series of motherboard that I've been using successfully for ages, and I don't know whether it was the BIOS or the management engine change or something kind of through this whole series of motherboard. Where if there was any USB, this is the one with the USB device, Pete, any USB device attached, right, it would just sit there randomly restart, shut down. It was an absolute basket case. You unplug the USB device and it was kind of fine. I've gone, well, what the fuck is this, right? No one could resolve it. And I've delivered machines with an identical board for a good 8 months or so, and then this thing just kind of got thrown at me, and I got thrown into the deep end, and I had to go through a second cycle of Z890 R&D, and I've resolved it. And the positive for me is that the motherboard manufacturer that I'm now working with, I'm in direct contact with the BIOS engineers, and they just said, "Hey Vin, if you need any changes, just let us know." And I've gone, "Fuck yeah." So I took a negative and turned it into a positive. But that was, after three decades of building, DAW solutions, I'd never encountered anything like that. It was just so crazy, and I threw everything at it, whether CPUs, memory, storage, motherboards, power supplies.
Meanwhile, the prices of all those things are going up while you're doing this. Luckily, that was before the insanity. Yeah. But apart from that, everything's kind of just, very, like I said, it's kind of, things are in a nice settled state, and we've probably just jinxed it now.
Oh, don't jinx it. I was going to say.
Yeah.
School's back now. Well, it's all going to start jinxing. You watch.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Plus the full moon. No, we've had the full moon already. Yeah. So, look, I think unless you guys want to discuss anything else, I think we might be able to wrap this one up.
Wow, we made it through the whole thing without any alarms, without...
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a milestone.
I'm a little bit disappointed, Pete, but we'll just have to keep the surprise for the next show.
Like whatever you're on that's keeping you chill, like keep going with it.
Yeah. Must be the hot weather.
It could be.
I tell you what it is. It's just that I've actually resolved to the fact that whatever's, it could be stress, whatever's stressing me, it's outside of my control, right? And I could go ranting at the clouds, but it's not going to resolve anything. So I am actually a lot calm. Look, it's a decision that I made. I had to be a little bit calm about this stuff. Otherwise, I'm just going to get myself ill.
Yeah, this is a good decision.
Yeah. So, all right. So, Chris, Pete, nothing else you want to kind of throw into the mix before we close off?
No, I'm all good.
I'm good.
Okay. All right. Well, guys, thanks again for your time and energy. Very much appreciated.
Thank you. And congratulations again on releasing the DAWbench stuff.
Yeah, thank you. And hopefully, that gets a little wider use because I have made it a lot easier for people just to jump in and get involved. All right. Okay. So with that, guys, on to the next.